This is S.T.A.R.S officer Rebecca Chambers, and you're listening to Let's Talk Resident Evil Podcast.
What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another Let's Talk Resident Evil Podcast. And I have a very special guest, none other than Nougie from Resident Evil Challenger.
Hello,
thank you.
Resident Evil fans.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. We've been trying to do this for a while, and, obviously, in the last couple of years, you guys have, been killing it, returning with the streams, the content. It's been a crazy past couple of years, but I think it kind of made a lot of content, possible and stuff kind of happen, right? Like under different stuff going on. It's like, man, we really were just like live streaming and coming back. And I remember when you guys came back, everyone was like, yo, like people were telling me in the chat, because I was always just like, man, like I want Resident Evil Challenger to come back. Like, these guys haven't been around for a while, or, like updated a recent challenge. You guys did one, in 20, what was it, 16 or 15?
2015, yeah.
15, right. So it was that one, the last one that I saw, and I was like, man. And then long and behold, you guys literally just showed up, like came back, and you're like, yeah, the OGs are back. We're representing, and we're coming back with a brand new challenge. And that was like, that blew my mind, man. That was really cool to see. How has all of that been? Just like in just coming back, like resurfacing to all the fans that have, still been by your side all these years.
Man, it's been an absolute blast. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know about Resident Evil Challenger, just a little bit of a timeline. So we started our content way back in 2005. So like literally nearly 17 years ago. And yeah, we made content when we were teenagers. Me and my co-host Nathan, who I do most of my content with. Yeah, we were just making content whilst we were at school, making it for years and years, on and off, but pretty solidly until 2015. And then we just had a big hiatus. Kind of got to an age where Nathan had his first child, and I was just doing a lot of things with work and other personal things going on. So we had a hiatus for about 5 years, and our YouTube was completely dead, didn't have any content or anything. And yeah, we decided that we wanted to do another 24-hour gaming challenge, which is what we're famous for. That's, what we've been doing since 2005, trying to beat a bunch of Resident Evil games within 24 hours. And yeah, I mentioned to Nathan that it'd be good if we came back and we did another one. And so we started getting everything ready for it. And the thing that we always do with our challenges, we always like making big, exciting trailers to advertise them. And like in the past, we'd make like zombie films or zombie trailers and things like that.
Yeah.
To kind of get people excited for it and to build up the hype. And we started making the trailer for the 2021. We started making that, weirdly, in March 2020. And so we finished filming that trailer 1 week before all of the lockdowns and everything began. And so, yeah, I had all of this footage for the trailer that I'd made, and then we're in lockdown and just at home, and work was cancelled, Nathan's time was cancelled and everything. And it turned out that when we actually put the trailer out a few weeks later, everyone else was also at home and everyone was looking for something interesting to watch. And I was expecting our trailer to get, a couple of views, or, a few of the old fans would be interested. But man, we got such a great response and everyone loved it. And it was at the time when Resident Evil 3 remake was coming out as well. And so we did live streams around that. And yeah, people were hooked on it. And it was really useful for not only us as a group, but for me, I think personally, like being in lockdown, being in isolation, not seeing friends, not seeing family, and just having a community of people that you can, host to, entertain, have an experience that you share together. Like, man, I'd be a completely different person if I didn't have, that as, to get me through all of those times, basically.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's exactly how I felt. And obviously me and John, when we were during like the RE3 stuff, and the same thing happened over here in the States, and we were just like, well, we were doing the Legacy series anyway. Like, we were trying to beat these games leading up, we started it in December of 2019. So our goal was like, we have to finish this no matter what. And it actually ended up, because we had more time off from work, we were able to crunch and literally get it done, and which was the most fulfilling thing. But then when I saw that you guys were doing that too, and you mentioned something about the community being there, and you're right, like during that time, what I remember is I remember Resident Evil 3, and I remember being really excited because that's like my favorite game of all time, the original. So I was like, man, I'm really stoked. And then I remember you guys came back, and like it was almost like we all kind of just like were working through everything and the lockdowns and everything in a content creative way with the community, that, and it wasn't about everything outside. It wasn't about that stuff. It was just like, let's just game and have fun, and let's just, make some, shitty Resident Evil jokes and just like have a good time. And it was, and you're right. Like I think it, because there were so many people that wanted to watch content and wanted to get some kind of like escape, I think that really helped for the fans. And like, if that didn't happen, like I don't think our channel would have grown from 6,000 subs onward. You know what I mean? It was almost like everything kind of came together in weird times, but like we were just working through it, and then it didn't stop because we had to cover Resident Evil 3 while everything was still happening. So it was like, it was a very weird time, but it was cool to see like other fellow Resident Evil content creators like yourself like come back and be like, all right, we're going to do this anyway. But like, now it's like it just comes together sometimes. It's kind of interesting how it works out.
Yeah. Shout out to John if you're out there and you're watching somewhere. When I did my first playthrough of Resident Evil 3, when it came through, did a blind playthrough, and I remember beating Final Nemi, and after I'd finished it, I just made a comment, something like, "Oh man, that final boss fight wasn't that hard. Man, it was a little bit disappointing." And I hadn't watched any other playthroughs. I didn't even know what Inferno mode was at that point. And John just commented on the live stream. He's like, "Just wait until you try out Inferno mode." I was like, I bet it's not that hard. Fast forward to my blind when I did a playthrough of it 6 months later. I just did an Inferno mode run, and I actually had a death counter for how many deaths that there was, and we put some predictions on our Discord for like how many times it's going to die, and
right.
People put down like, I bet he'll die like 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. It died 125 times on Inferno mode.
I'd have to go back and check ours. Ours was pretty bad too. Like ours was probably worse because it was like two different people playing. So it was like, all right, like if this person's like, trying to fight to stay awake or something, because it was like we were pushing 26 hours, 27 hours, I think by the end or something like that. Because it was just like, all right, let's just do. Literally, the platinum popped up by the end of that stream. It was like we did everything from like start to finish. It was like, it was nuts. So I think when Inferno mode was like, okay, you got to make sure that the dodge was it. It was like, as long as you get these frames down, that you pretty much got it in the pocket, because that's the only way you can get S rank on that and get that achievement or trophy. You have to like literally Jill's just rolling and dodging literally 95% of that run. Otherwise you're pretty much screwed. So, but that's just how that game works. But Resident Evil 3 Remake, again, that was a very fun, that was a fun experience during that time. I think that's the one thing I'll always remember is just like playing it, learning it, and I still like the original over Remake, but, that's another discussion. But again, the remake era that we're in, again, like it brings a lot of fans together, and that's something that you guys have always done with your community, and going back all the way to 2005 when you have like websites and what did you use to create the website? What was the big one back then? I forget a couple of the names. What was the Come on, what was the website? I forget. I remember there was one that like it was kind of like it was a free one, and I'm blanking on the names. Maybe you guys had different ones for the UK domains, but
so it was called Free Webs.
Free Webs, okay.
And then I think it changed to Webs because I think they realized just how awful it sounded. But yeah, just
okay, Free Web sounds familiar. That might have been over here too.
Yeah. So I mean, like you got to remember that I was a 15-year-old. Creating this website, had no website building experience or anything like that. I'd only just started using Photoshop, and I only had sort of like pocket money from my parents and everything. Yeah. So we couldn't get the premium versions or anything like that. So all plastered over the websites was always like sponsored by FreeWebs or powered by FreeWebs or
Yeah,
whatever.
they had to put their plug on there. It's like the unregistered
Yeah.
hypercam, videos where it always has to be in the corner because it was like a free version or whatever the hell. So
Yeah, exactly like that. But yeah, it's a shame that our old website doesn't hang around anymore. I mean, so I'm really lucky that so I've got like in the Resident Evil Challenge team, like there's quite a few people that kind of do a lot of things behind the scenes who a lot of people don't actually see. So you've got like a lot of like moderators and graphic design artists and people who just like help or advise with live streams and what we're making, what we're doing. And I've basically had a right-hand man for pretty much the whole time. A guy called Jack C, but he's also known as Creamy Elephant, or that English dude. I like to call him that American tit, or that American twat. So he was based in the UK, and then he moved over to Texas in 2007, 2008, sometime around then. But yeah, he was just like a fan of ours, and he just approached me really early in like 2006. He was a real whiz at Photoshop, and he was just like, I can help out, like making things and doing things. And man, if you saw some of my Photoshopping skills back in 2005, they are abysmal. Like when we used to make like the DVD like box sets of our videos and everything, I did the first attempt at making the DVD box set art. If anyone saw that art now, they would not pay money for it. It was awful.
It's assured that those are out of print. Those are no longer being made. The OG sets, right?
Yeah, they were shocking. They were terrible. Unfortunately, Jack told me nice and early that he was like, this isn't acceptable. We need to step this up. And so he has just been there in the background, just making stuff and doing graphic design. And he did a lot of stuff on the website and everything on the live streams and everything. He always designed, and it always looked really, really good. He's just got a very good eye for that sort of stuff. And he also had a big involvement in the mod, all of the mods that have been coming out recently. So he's had he's had a real active role in a lot of our content, and he's not credited enough because you don't really see him in our content. He doesn't like present live streams.
Right. He's like the behind the scenes man with the plan, like getting stuff done, being like, yo, I'll make this image real quick or do this mod, like, and he'll take the time to do it. It's always good to have people like that in your circle, and having, like you guys always seemed like, again, very community oriented and very close. And even throughout the years of like the different platforms changing and like, streaming going in like all different directions and stuff like that, it's cool that like years later you can still find enjoyment in it, because it's like something where it's like you kind of find, you kind of fall in love with the franchise again sometimes with it, because the community kind of helps that. Because sometimes you can be like, oh yeah, I played this game like 1,000 times, but it gets to the point where you're like, oh, like I can either play it in this mod way, or we can like, meme on it or make a joke, or again, do it in a challenge way, switch it up, do something that's different. So it's not the same old, vanilla game, or it's the same old, like normal run of the mill stuff. So I think that was, you guys really broke some ground there. You definitely were the first, Resident Evil based, community that was like not even on like, this was like when YouTube started, but you guys like did your own thing. You had message boards and everything like that, and that was a big thing too, because like those message boards, there was, like that was kind of like the area of where people would talk in like a Discord room now. So it's kind of relates to that a little bit, you know what I mean? You guys were kind of in there breaking some ground for Resident Evil, because like there was more Resident Evil websites and stuff that came along, podcasts and stuff throughout the years, but you guys were like the first community, especially out of the UK, and especially even before the States jumped on. Now it's like there's a million Resident Evil content creators, which is cool, but you guys definitely, I've always put you guys over as being, if there wasn't, Nougie and Nathan, like there a lot of people, I'm just saying, like, I don't want to blow smoke. I don't want to blow smoke, right? But you got to give credit where credit's due. Like you guys were around doing something different. And then when you brought that stuff over to YouTube, that's how I found you guys. I found you guys through, it was probably 2006, 2007. Like I said, I was a lot younger, but I saw someone else enjoying Resident Evil, but in a different capacity, and really long videos, which, you know, you had to have a director's account back then. This was a different time that a lot of people don't know, right? When bandwidth was limited and there was 10-minute videos, and you guys had a director's account, so you could compile these massive archives of these streams that I could, because again, you guys, not only just for Resident Evil content, but you guys were among the first handful, you know, maybe 20 people, the content creators that were live streaming, doing this so early on. And I wanted to ask you about that process. Like, what did you use? We're going to talk about this. I want to talk about what did you use for the streaming, and how did you have to get around like room blockage, because you couldn't have people all view it, right? It's not like today where, hey, jump in the room, we're streaming. Like, it had to be like people like that you knew, that was in your circle, right? Like, how did you manage all of that back then?
Right. Are you ready for a little history lesson?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I want to take people back, so let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's wind back the clocks. So, as I said, we started our content back in 2005. Me and Nathan were just friends at school. We used to have like a lot of the same classes together and everything. And yeah, I just got my first video camera when I was like 14, and we just used to use that together, like outside of school. We're big fans of the Jackass TV series, and so we just make our own like videos, like skateboarding videos. When I say like Jackass videos, I mean it mostly be me hitting Nathan with things or throwing things at Nathan. When I'd just be like, well, I'm just going to film it. I'm the cameraman. I can't get hit right now. So that was basically the concept of that. And we used to film loads of things together. And then when he used to hang out at my house, I then got him into the Resident Evil series. And yeah, he got really good at the games. Resident Evil 0 in particular, of course, which he's well known for.
Oh, yeah.
And then after a while, we're like, you know what? It'd be really fun if we tried to beat the entire series in 24 hours. Because, well, when I say entire series, I mean the GameCube 6 games.
Yeah, and at the time,
0.
yeah, it was only like a few other spin-offs that, like, you know, weren't on GameCube. The main like essentials pieces that you had it all on GameCube, because they had that run of putting a bunch of stuff out on Nintendo.
Yeah, it all looked really nice. It was like 0, RE1 Remake, RE2, RE3, Code Veronica, and 4. And at that point in time, it was like 4 wasn't on any other consoles. One remake wasn't on any other console. 0 wasn't on any other consoles.
Yeah.
So it made sense to do it on a GameCube, and it looked nice. The GameCube, you know, it was small but very powerful. The graphics looked great.
Oh, that was it kicked the shit out of the PS2 graphics. That's for sure. Those graphics were top notch, man. Top notch.
Oh man, I mean, I used to do reviews on Resident Evil 4 and like how it compared on all the different formats. And when you actually put them like side by side, like the GameCube and the PS2 version just looked garbage.
Yeah.
It sounded garbage.
Yeah.
It just didn't have the space or, you know, the power of the GameCube to, you know, get everything that it did. So it was always going to be a bit of an uphill battle.
Definitely, yeah. I was gonna say, so like that. So you know, you started with like, you know, just the GameCube essentials, and again, that was enough to kind of get like the story across, and then also to kind of master it. Like, did you guys like? Would you bring like you just started using each other's GameCubes, right? Like one person had a GameCube, and then you had a GameCube, so it was like, all right, let's just, you know, get two TVs together, two CRTs, old school CRTs, and make it happen, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Basically it'd be bring your GameCube, bring your TV, we'll get together at my house or his house and we'll play through some of the games. But with the first challenge, we were like, we don't know if anyone's going to believe us. You know, that we've beaten this entire series. People are going to say you're lying about this, or you didn't do it, or you didn't really stay awake. I bet you fell asleep or you cheated. So we thought that we would film it. So we had some video evidence for it. We sent it over to our friends and everything. And so, yeah, we basically just filmed. It was like documentary in style.
Right.
We'd just film all of these little updates of, 30 minutes in, I just had my first death, or 1 hour in, about to do this next boss fight, etc. And we just would do that throughout the whole 24 hours and then would compile that into one video. And I did it with the first couple of challenges that we did. And this was before YouTube, right? So this was maybe like 6 months before YouTube or so.
Right.
And so the platform at the time, and this is me really showing my age. Believe it or not, I'm 32. Most people think I'm younger than that, but I'm actually 32. And so I uploaded it onto Google Video, which is the platform then, and I just left it there. Uploaded the video, and I was going to send it over to my friends. I had the video there, and I didn't realise that when I'd uploaded it, that it was actually public. I thought it was a private link, and so I just came back and checked the video like a couple of weeks later, and I noticed that it had tens of thousands of views. It had like 50,000 views or something, and all of these comments of people like, "Oh, that was great, man. Oh, I loved it. Oh, lol, Nathan blew himself up with the gas can and stuff." All this sort of stuff.
Right.
And I was just totally taken by surprise. And there were so many people that were like, "When's the next one? Oh, do another one, do another one." And so we did, and it was that kind of fan interaction that spurred us on to make more content.
And no one was doing. No one. I mean, there was not. That was before YouTube. There was not another Resident Evil playthrough related video like that with someone either commentating over it or just like that was just really cool, man. Like that's what really I think set the spark to be like, all right, now then with YouTube it was like it just kind of made sense, right? It was like that this is the new platform even before Google bought it. It was just like that's where all videos were, and that was the gateway for people like myself to find you, Dead Pit, Angry Video Game Nerd, like like it was like a bubble of channels, and finding something Resident Evil, which was my favorite franchise, like you guys were the first through the YouTube capacity.
Yeah, it was so different back then because like now, if you're stuck on a boss or you're doing a knife only run or something and you get stuck, what does everyone do? You go onto YouTube, you find a video of how to do it, you watch that, and then you can imitate it. But back then, these videos weren't around, and there wasn't really the technology that you could go from a console into your computer. And so, like, if there was anything there were some rare videos of people filming things on their TV, but they always looked like, they were just very janky and just weren't very professionally done. And it was I think that's why a lot of people came over onto our channel and watched our content, because we started doing knife-only runs and things like that. After we'd done like a couple of challenges where it was just beating the games, we're like, how can we keep this fresh and interesting? And so we started introducing the stipulations, which was like handgun only, or no first aid sprays, or knife only, and things like that. And I got this idea from, was used to be a big like wrestling fan, a big like WWE fan, and I really liked the idea that they had where they would introduce stipulations into wrestling matches so that they had an extra like dimension to them, an extra layer of interest. And so that was where I came up with the idea of adding that into our games. And so we started doing like knife-only runs on Code Veronica and Resident Evil 2 and some other games. I think that was one reason why people watched a lot of our content, because there weren't those videos there to see how to beat RE2 knife-only or Code Veronica knife-only, or to see the cutscene when Nosferatu, when you beat him with the knife only. So I think that was a big draw to our content back around sort of like 2006, 2007.
Yeah, man, and with the process of getting into like the live stream, like what was that like? Like where was the website that you used?
So the website we used, because again, this was before YouTube and Twitch and everything had streaming options. So we were using a platform which most people have never heard of before, that was called Cam Streams. And again, the reason why we got into live streaming was after we'd uploaded a couple of our challenge videos, you read through the comments and some people would say, well, I can see these videos are edited, you're cutting out, you're cutting out certain parts of it, we're not seeing you playing the whole game, you're cheating, you're not doing it, you're just loading your saves.
And you could be cutting to different days and like whatever, they don't think it's one consistent thing.
Yeah, so people didn't believe that we could actually stay awake and beat all of the games. And the competitive 17-year-old version of me was just like, I want to screw over these naysayers. We did do it, and I want to prove it. And so I spent weeks trying to work out how do you go from a GameCube to the internet. And there was just nothing there. There was no way of doing it, or at least anything that I could find back then. And yeah, so the only way I could find of doing it was using our webcams. And so this was before capture cards, this was before any kind of HDMI sources
This is
or anything.
before Dazzle, because Dazzle was one
Yeah.
of the capture cards that people would get in like 08, 09, but this is still before that, right? Like I used a
This is
DVD
before it.
recorder. That was my first,
Yeah.
because I would, you know, I wasn't worried about live streaming. Otherwise I would be screwed because I had to record everything to a DVD. I couldn't, I would have to rip it and do all that crap. So yeah, that's crazy.
That's exactly how we recorded our challenges, or how we got our DVDs made and digitized. Because again, the very first video camera that I had, it was using like really, really old tapes. It was before the digitapes that you could get. And again, there was no way of getting it onto a computer back then. And the only way I could do it was to plug my camera into a DVD recorder and burn that onto a DVD.
Was
and
it
then
the
take
tape
the
you had to
DVD,
put inside the
with
tape?
that.
Was it the small? Yes, I have a bunch right over there that I have to convert, and it has like all my old childhood like crappy movies and stuff on it, right? But it's like it was always on the S VHS, or this, I think that's what it's called, and you have to put it in, and then it takes it and rolls it up into the top part, and then you got to put it in, and it's just that's an annoyance. You got to put a battery in the cassette, people, just to wind it up. Like what
It's
the
so
hell?
annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's again, that's kind of cool. Like again, like the bandwidth stuff was obviously limited, right? So that was a process where like you had to just see like, I guess, people that were on your website to be like, yo, come check out this link, like make it like a private link or a public link, but I guess just to your website.
Yeah. So anyways, once I kind of figured that out, and we decided we were just going to have the webcam, and it was literally a webcam filming 2 TVs. So weird to think that you'd get people that would stay awake for 24 hours watching the entire thing of just a webcam feed filming 2 people's TVs. And there'd be a lot of people that would watch the entire thing the whole time, they'd be commenting the whole time. Just shows how dedicated our fan base are. But yeah, as I said, there wasn't really an actual platform to stream then. So after some research online, I managed to find this place called Cam Streams, which its primary use was basically like a babe station kind of platform. It was basically webcam girls and guys could go on there and you send in money and then take off clothes and things like that. But it was live and it was in real time and it went through webcams. And that was the only platform I could find that we could actually do our live streaming through. And so we did some live streams through there and it worked out well and it was fine. But the problem was that our popularity was growing quicker than the bandwidth and everything could host. So we were trying to do all of these live streams where only sort of about, I'm trying to remember the top amount of people. I think it was about 60 people could watch it live at one time. And so we would have to make requests to Cam Streams. I had the main website's contact details, and I'd have to let him know every time we were about to do a 24-hour live stream, because he would have to physically get more bandwidth for their servers, because we would have so many people that were trying to go on, and we'd completely max them out.
Right, that's a good problem to have for them, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. It was weird. We were more popular. Who would have thought some teenage boys playing video games was more popular than a bunch of girls getting their clothes off? Because still blows my mind. It's probably the biggest compliment we've ever had. I'll take that.
Easily. Come
on. But yeah, because we only had limited bandwidth, we'd have to do these competitions where people could win. We'd call it winning a seat to watch the live streams. And so we'd do all of these competitions on our message boards and within our videos, where people would have to win a quiz or they'd have to spot things in our video content.
You guys were doing virtual tickets back then too. Holy shit. No,
basically, yeah.
Yeah. It's like virtual seat, right? Like get a seat to catch it because we can only do X amount of people.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And people were like fighting over these seats. It was just madness, absolute madness. But yeah, that was what we were contesting with back in those days.
That's cool.
Feels
man.
like, I was going to say, it feels like, and this is going to make me sound like such an old man saying this, but it just feels like so much cheating now, where you can literally just go onto YouTube and there's just a button that says go live. And
you can literally do it from a phone, and be like, yeah, I could just stream. And it's like, what? Like, it's just so, you don't even think about it, right? It's like, that's why it's like when I did the Let's Plays on my channel before, it was like streaming, and it was like 10-minute parts, 10-minute parts, 10-minute parts, and it was just brutal because like the game, like you would upload like 17 parts, and it's like the game could easily be done in like one efficient stream. But again, if you didn't have that director's account, you're pretty much done for as far as like the limit. And I don't know why that like was even a thing. Like I see why it was a thing for filmmakers, but like also like, why did you limit the bandwidth for some and not others? Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of weird, because then it went to 15 minutes and then it went to like whatever. So, you know, then anyone can upload whatever and then stream. So it's kind of crazy how that's, you know, kind of evolved. And like during around that time, like were you also, you know, doing film? Like were you doing that stuff on the side? So you had like also extra, just like you guys were already doing like the trailer videos and stuff like that. So that's cool that you implemented that part into it. So were you also kind of just like experimenting with other stuff outside of RE Challenger?
Yeah. So outside of RE Challenger, me and Nathan were just always filming stuff, always making like little horror movies and things like that. And then when I started going to college, I was studying media, and then I did filmmaking. And when I went to university, I did film production. So like within all of those years, I was always experimenting, always had a video camera. I was kind of known by everyone that knew me by having a video camera with me everywhere. Like even when I went into school, my camera would get confiscated because I was just making sneaky little videos at school and stuff. But yeah, I was always making stuff, and I just loved it. It was always I was such a horror nerd at school. Like all of the old like slasher films and stalker films, psychological horror, everything. I just really nerded out. I was always watching them. That's what I'd spend my evenings in the week just doing, either playing Resident Evil or watching horror films.
There you go.
And,
something we got in common right there.
Yeah, exactly, man. And, you know, when you become like that obsessed with something, you then want to do it yourself. And so I was like, I want to be making these films. I want to be doing this.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there was a great opportunity for crossover, especially as we had a bit of a fan base, you know. So it's one thing when you're making stuff for yourself, but if you're making things where people are watching it and then also critiquing it, giving you feedback, you're learning something, you've got some lessons for next time as well, then it just felt like more fulfilling and really useful. And it did really help, you know, even though it was a bunch of like teenagers that were commenting on my films back then, it was all feedback that's got me to where I am now. And yeah, I'm just super grateful for it. And yeah, every step has been useful. It's all got me to where we are now on this journey. So yeah. It's been awesome.
That's a good way to look at it, because like it's always like, you know, you pretty much just take all of the you know, the critique and stuff like that, try to apply it to your next project, try to learn from each one, and, you know, maybe you spend a little bit more money here getting this done, or do that, you know, you try to polish it up, right, like next time. But yeah, that's the one thing you know, because back in the day your channel name was just Nougie, it wasn't Resident Evil Challenger. So I always thought that was fascinating, because I was like, oh, he puts other stuff on there, and I saw that you were doing films at one point, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool though, because you were showing, you know, your fans this other stuff that like you're also like, hey, I'm also doing this too. You know, that's kind of how I always took it, where like, you know, you were like, hey, this is just like, what do you think? Like kind of just throwing it out there. And that's kind of how I feel like with my film channel, where like it's separated, but it's also just kind of like, I just kind of try. Films are just really hard to make, so, and they take forever sometimes to get done. And I that's why like this year I'm really trying to make it to not only over 1K subs for monetization, because that will help me out, but also just do more like movie related discussions and content and stuff like that, because it's faster to get done, and I don't want the account to sit dormant for so long, you know, because that just doesn't help grow. Like it doesn't help algorithm, it doesn't help anything in the YouTube scene now. So instead of like not putting stuff out, you know, I'm editing something now, you know, that will take a little bit, but I'm like, all right, let me put out other stuff, collection updates, all that stuff on there, and just to try to get, you know, also some feedback, like you said, because the feedback really matters. You know, it does, like you said, it makes you the person you are. So all the years of like critique, or like seeing comments, or seeing, you know, whatever, even if it's constructive or not constructive, stuff you can ignore or whatever, you just kind of, it always just makes you a better person at the end of the day, because you're like, all right, I got thick skin, and I know when there's like a legitimate critique versus someone that's like just throwing shade and like, you know, whatever. So I think that the platform especially with the Resident Evil community, it's grown very well on, on YouTube, obviously, like as far as like the support and just like how awesome the fans are, you know what I mean? And that's really cool that like there is some crossover between both of our fans, you know what I mean? I think that's really cool. Because I didn't know like until, a lot of people again kind of got that UK audience as well, but you guys got people from all over. So there's just people that knew you guys just in the scene, in the RE scene, if you want to call it that. And, I was just like, holy shit, man. Like, again, like you guys kind of going into like, when you guys kind of stepped away for a few years before you did the 2015 challenge, were you kind of like really just in, like, again, you guys had stuff going on, like you were just doing your own thing, but did you dive into mostly like film at that time? Were you just shooting stuff? Like, were you at that, like, or editing documentaries, doing stuff like that?
Yeah. So from some of your viewers who may not know much about me outside of Resident Evil. So I'm a documentary filmmaker. So I work as like a director, cinematographer, editor, drone pilot. Basically, any role in film that you want to give me money for, I will probably end up doing it. So, but yeah, it all comes, as I said, like from when I got my video camera when I was 14 to 32 now. I've just been stubborn enough to just stay on this same path and just be trying out different things and everything. But yeah, within that time, I was just really, really focused on my career. And I'm glad that I did have that time away from Resident Evil, because I feel like in 2015, it was at a point where I felt we had kind of done what we needed to. We played same bunch of games again and again and again. We'd done 4 seasons of challenges. We'd come back and done a couple of extra ones and everything. So, at that point in time, we'd done what we needed to. And I think that, yes, there are other things we could have tried out. But, I'm definitely an advocate for knowing when it's the right time to like take a step back and and not to just keep churning things out forever. And yeah, that time away was really good. I worked on a load of really interesting documentaries. Like I shot some documentaries about like women's wrestling and WWE, and did a documentary that I've just finished up now. I shot out in Japan about karate, and
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I've done loads. Yeah. I've done loads of documentaries and started up my own company that I've been running for 6 years now, just making films, and got a drone license, and yeah, loads and loads of stuff has been going on. So I needed that time to kind of get my head down and be on it and not be distracted, because it's hard, as you all know better than anyone, it's hard like being able to host a lot of this stuff,
Right.
and to be able to only sort of half-ass it, for lack of a better term. Like, you want to be involved, and when people are asking you to stream and do things, you don't want to say, I'm too busy and I'll do it in 2 months.
Right.
You want to be involved and you want to be active, and that's just something I couldn't do back then. Whereas having that 5-year gap, having lockdown, having all of the remakes, having a load of new RE games to try out, having all the mods that I haven't tried as well.
Resident Evil came out of the dark ages, right? Because it was after RE6 that we had the dip, and then RE7 in 2017, right? So or 2017. So it's like so it's almost like you kind of went away when there was still like Revelations 2. Yeah, but there was a real like a really weird period for Resident Evil and Capcom financially. They hit a dark period, and then with the revival of everything, like you said, you guys were able to like come back and then do like you backpedaled and did the games that you missed along the way. You're like, yo, let's go back, and because you can't bring back a challenge without introducing 7, 2 remake, 3 remake, like the games that have been out since you've been away. But like you said, it kind of fuels the fire because you come back to all this new content, new mods. Like it's kind of like refreshing, right? Like you fall in love with it again because you have that like camaraderie. You got people like on your side. Like it's a community you could jump back into, and you could just like, it's almost like, seeing a good friend or a close friend. You just pick up where you left off. It's not like, so that's kind of cool that, you can capture that through, again, like the beginning of lockdown and everything. Like that was the big thing where it was just like, okay, what games can we play? And like Resident Evil 3 was already coming out, and it was like, we started pretty much covering that game December of 2019. So it was a few months of build up to like trailer breakdowns and, discussing the original versus remake and stuff like that. So it was a very special time, even though there was a lot of, craziness going on. It was special within just a creative way because, you know, that's why I think we create art as people that do film or work on projects. It's just a way to kind of like, that's like, for me, that's like my therapy, right? So like I can go into it and like work through something, and it just like, it always feels good to get stuff done and get stuff completed. And I'm always thinking of the next thing and trying to like, you know, and you have to learn balance. You have to learn like scheduling and knowing not to burn yourself out. Especially now because, you know, YouTube, we live in a world where YouTube kind of rewards burnout, where like if you're putting stuff out on a massive scale, you'll get that algorithm, you'll move the needle, right? But it's also you got to be like, okay, we're going to just take this one step at a time and do what we can do. And but I thought you guys, obviously you came back at the right time with the right games and just everything that was out, and you guys, it added another layer, and there's still more stuff, you know, coming out. We know that there's, a spin-off coming out, the remake of 4, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's like not announced, but it's there kind of thing. So we'll see kind of what happens with like adding new stuff in there. But, you know, I know that the filmmaking process and doing stuff like that and getting that experience, that's cool that you're able to kind of step away and do that, because like, again, sometimes like certain projects or things like, and I'm sure you know this too, like some stuff just doesn't work out at that time. Sometimes you can return to it later, like whether it's a script or an idea or something. And sometimes it just doesn't work out, like, or certain things don't line up for certain things to get done, but you can come back to it, and it might take 5 years, it might take, you know, however long, but when the time's right, the time's right. You know, when you feel like you can feel revamped and just enjoy it, because, and it's easy. And like you said, it's kind of easier now too. Like, and now that you've kind of like, you know, I'm sure you're kind of like me, where like all through the years, you've just invested in a lot of equipment too. Like you've kind of built like your layer of like all your equipment, and like you have your favorite stuff, like you have stuff you use for everything, right? So it's like it kind of like sparked everything from my perspective. I think that everything from the influence you got from the Resident Evil Challenger stuff to, you know, on a filmmaking level, I think all of it kind of, at least for me on my end too, it kind of works, it kind of feeds each other. It's like you learn stuff from every single project you do, whether it's like gaming related, well, that can apply to the film stuff, because then like you're doing editing stuff for this trailer, and it's like, you know what I mean? So it kind of feeds one another in a skill kind of way, if that makes sense, if I'm making sense there. I know that was kind of like a mouthful, but yeah, that's kind of
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they really go hand in hand. And that is one thing that I've really loved about our content more recently, in that I feel that our style of the 24-hour challenges. So, like, if someone goes onto our channel, there's like loads of different things that are there. So there's like the gaming live streams, which are kind of like what everyone does. You play through a game, comment on it, you do a challenge, whatever. And then there's like our older like challenge 24-hour challenge videos, seasons 1 through to 4, and then there's like various other spin-off challenges that we've done. But if someone was going to come to our channel and start watching something and wanted to be won over, I would suggest like looking at Resident Evil Challenge 2020. So that was like the big challenge which me and Nathan were doing, the first one we'd done in our hiatus about 5 years. And the reason why I like that challenge so much and why I think it's so unique is that the Resident Evil challenge concept that we've got down now is like, there's not really a stylistic thing like it. So you've got like documentaries and you've got 24-hour live streams, or just live streams in general. And this really crosses the two over. So it's like it's really filmed in, like, 'cause I use a lot of my documentary kind of style within this, you know, within the camera movements and how we film it and everything. Like, it's not all just done on a tripod. You know, I really try and involve like handheld camera movement or interesting angles, things that really add to the suspense and how we're feeling and when we're tired.
Right.
All those things are considered. And I think, but it's also blended in with the actual gaming, which is then going into the gaming live streams and the overlays and the more traditional kind of look. But the blending of the two, again, there wasn't really anything like this. And I kind of had to experiment with a lot of stuff during lockdown to try and work out how it was going to work. Because initially, I was going to just do it how I'd always done. And even though there are capture cards and everything now, my initial idea was to just film it like we always had done. Camera, on a tripod
Right.
and filming it on the TV.
You wanted to add the production though. You wanted to add more of like a kind of like approach it different. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna just do it like, again, kind of take those tools that you learned and be like, all right, let me try to apply this here, because we could try to approach this a little bit differently. Like, did you get like a because you guys seem to be rocking what, like you have an HDMI switcher, right? So you can like switch in and out of the video, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I've used switchers before, but I've never done it for like live, like, you know, being on the ones and twos, like being able to like switch between. But that's very fascinating, because that's something that's like, you know, it, again, couldn't be done years ago. Had to point a webcam at two screens, and here you are, like kind of being like, you know what, we're gonna do this. We're stepping it up, and again, each kind of challenge shows that growth. But that's kind of cool that you're like, all right, let me add something new here.
Yeah. So I mean, with that 2020 challenge as well, that one was that was a real technical hurdle to work out how to do it, because as I said, there's the whole documentary side of things. And I had started using capture cards in the live streams that I've been doing, and so I kind of got how that worked. And you know, you can see 1,000,001 other live streams of people doing, you know, live streams from their capture card, but there was nothing on the internet in 2020, and there still isn't really now, other than what we've attempted, of like multiple people's streams and like jumping between them in this kind of format. And so the first one we did, I wish I had a photo of the setup, but there was just so many HDMI cables going. So there'd be like the capture card and the camera and the webcam and the audio, and then the laptop, and then there'd be Nathan's TV and my TV. And if you think it's stressful enough, like trying to stay awake and beat 4 Resident Evil games, some knife only, some with no healing items, all of that, whilst managing a live stream, but then also trying to manage all of that technical stuff. And you'd see in the comments, people would be like, oh, how's Nathan doing his live stream? And you've been awake for, say, 20 hours. And you're there just looking at a bunch of cables like, so Nathan's cable's this one, and I need to unplug that. But if I unplug this, I might break the whole thing. It was...
Oh no. So it was just like,
stressful.
yeah, again, trying to deal with that, and then being like, all right, great, this is going to work now, but then when we go live, again, something can go wrong. Like that's how it always is for content creators. It's like sometimes like you think you got it and it'll work 99.9%, but that 1%, you click the live button, it like the fate or something out there knows like, yeah, we got to screw up that stream somehow. We got to put in, you know, we're going to make this audio cut out, or like for us, like we fucked up on the Village stream because we didn't cut, we were stupid and forgot to cut it off before the 12 hours, where YouTube would cut.
Oh yeah,
it would gut that video. So unfortunately, no one has our first reaction, not even us, because we didn't locally record it like fucking idiots, but no one has our like final reaction to like going down in the basement and reading the files about Spencer and Chris and all that. Like that's gone. It's just like if you were there, it was there kind of thing. So it was just like, and we knew this back in 2020 when we did the Resident Evil 3, and we were able to like break it up and do this, and this, but like it was still, it just, I don't know why we overlooked that, but it was just like, who knows, maybe we were just like, you know.
Oh, don't blame yourself.
But
blame YouTube, man, because we got burnt of that with our 2020 challenge as well. I didn't know about that 12-hour cap, and so we had everything running for 24 hours. Fortunately, it was all being recorded locally for the highlights edit we're doing later. But
that's the key, man. Always just have something backing it up while something else. Yeah, just it's crazy.
Yeah, but I was just so gutted, because I was like, oh, I could go back, watch the live stream, see how it all went. And I went the following day, and it was gone. You know, you go 1 minute over 12 hours, YouTube cuts it. So like now, it's kind of annoying that every 24-hour one we do has to be in like odds. And so like we're running against the clock, trying to beat all these games, and we'll be like, if you just wait 5 minutes, we're going to pause the time as we change over to part 2.
And please come over to the room. Yeah. It's
like just really interrupts the flow.
Yeah, it's then, like, what the hell?
It also separates the wheat from the chaff, because that's when you know when people have fallen asleep. When you're moving over to another part, and then like only like 70% of people go. It's like,
you're just like, damn, they checked out.
They're asleep on their keyboard.
Yeah, that's the thing too, man. It's like, you know, that learning that too. Yeah, I think that's when I learned it too in 2020, because that was the first like ever 24-hour like live stream that I've done. That was well, we did RE2 remake, but with that, I think we did it. I think I had a problem with that with Resident Evil 2 Remake, but I think we took a break for that one anyway, so I think we didn't run into the issue. If it's for some reason, of course, RE3, like that was like, okay, let's try to stop. So we did it because I think one of the legacy streams that we were doing before, because of the legacy series, we found out about that 12-hour mark because Remake or something happened, and like, no, Remake got muted. Remake, for some reason, the archive first 30 seconds audio, rest muted, and so that's just gone forever. So like John restreamed it when I was away for my birthday that year. That was February of 2020. He just kind of restreamed it as like, hey guys, this is just like an extra whatever, so he held it down for that. But we were just like, why did this happen? And again, not locally recording it, we just didn't, but so, and then with another stream, yeah, it was the 12-hour thing, so we kind of knew ahead of time of RE3, yo, let's stop it and then do it. But it was still like, why do you have to do that when, like, I don't know if Twitch gives people that issue, but we weren't on Twitch anyway. Like, we were just like staying on YouTube at that point, because we tried doing both. Like, you can do things like restream and you can stream this both simultaneously, but we would never get any views, and YouTube was where the home is, It's been around for a while.
You reminded me of a good point, that I actually owe you guys quite a lot of credit, because I remember just as we were about to come back after that hiatus, I had a really nice call with you and John. We were like introducing each other, and we were like talking about all our content thing. And I was just saying to you guys, because this was literally like just as we were coming back, I was like, oh, well, I've been streaming on Twitch, but it doesn't really seem to be catching on fire. And you guys were like, why don't you just stream on YouTube? You've got all your subscribers there. And I was like, can you really stream on YouTube? Don't really know much about it. And you guys convinced me to do that. I would still be kicking Twitch down the road at the moment, and it would have been rubbish. Well, at least for us, it wasn't the right place. But YouTube, like, I've loved it. I mean, apart from those things, and apart from how annoying they are with super chats, we had to move our platform away from that. I'm sure you've experienced it, but just
that's weird that they did that with the super chats on you guys, because we were getting donations pretty consistently too, but they never like flagged anything, and that's very strange that they did that. You know what I mean? But I guess
it's weird. So
yeah, go ahead.
Basically, what happened was that YouTube has this weird rule that you're not allowed to repost any content that you've already posted before, which I can understand. And during lockdown, we're doing this thing called the watch along, where we're going back and we're watching our really, really old videos, and I'd do like a director's commentary and talk about like what actually happened.
Right, as you should be able to do with the guidelines.
Yeah, and also I'm not the only person that's done that. Loads and loads of people have done it on YouTube before. But they took an issue, and that because there was videos that were already on our channel appearing in this video, even though they were brand new and were featuring all this new stuff. They said it was against the rules and took away all our super chats.
So it wasn't so much the super chat itself, it was because of a piece of content that you just wanted to do for the sake of adding some insight, adding some director's input, some behind the scenes, if you will. And they were like, can't do that. But it's my content though. If I want to talk over my content, then what's the issue?
Yeah, I've had so many issues with YouTube. So yes, I've been giving them a load of positive feedback, but I've also had quite a few run-ins with them.
Yeah, I know that conversation we had. I remember that conversation. I remember you shared the teaser, and it was really exciting to see that. And and I remember us telling you, putting YouTube over, because also again, like right now, I think it's if you already have at least an established platform on here or a fan base, I think it's an easier place to be. But I do agree that like it's stuff you gotta tiptoe around some stuff, and especially when you rely on some of the stuff like I do, it's scary, so stuff's changing a lot, so you just gotta like it's just weird, and I think you guys are still doing great with Streamlabs, and there's workarounds, right? There's like PayPal donations, there's Streamlabs, there's easier ways that people could just donate, and then it goes to a good cause. I want to talk about the cause as well, because you guys have raised how much at this point? How much money? I should have did my homework here.
That's all good. I think we're on £18,500. So yeah, we're getting very close to 20k, which has been raised now, and yeah, we've basically been doing it for two charities. And so the first charity was this charity called NHS Heroes, or now known, they've rebranded since then. They're now known as the Healthcare Workers Foundation, but when we started fundraising, they're called NHS Heroes. And yeah, it was just basically, as I was saying, like in March 2020, and there's all the stuff going on in England with the NHS, which is our National Health Service, and the hospitals were becoming quite overwhelmed with COVID. And
Right.
my mum's actually a nurse, and she was telling me about what was going on in the hospitals. And
Yeah,
all
my mom's
the...
a nurse too. It was crazy. It's crazy just hearing those stories, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate.
It's crazy how much we also have in common as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a real state. It was really awful. And I was just sitting there playing Resident Evil games, and I was like, what can I do about this? And I was like, not very much, but you know, we've got a fan base watching our stuff. If people want to drop £2 in, £5, whatever, if I can raise £300, I've done something. I've helped someone out. That'd be great.
Right, and you could do it by just sitting at home. Like, it was a way to do it, like, safely and just, like, in a chill way to be like, hey, everything can be done right here. Again, that's another great way that our you know, the internet and technology is kind of advanced, right, where it's just, like, things are so easy to set up, so you didn't have to, like, you'd be like, all right, we can actually do this, and it worked out. It lined up with your with the challenge and everything.
Yeah, exactly. It was really straightforward to set up. And so I set it up, and I try and remember the very first challenge which we took donations for. I think it was, it's called a Lucky Dip stream of Resident Evil 0. And basically the concept is we've got like a bunch of different cups like this, and they've got on there different sheets of paper which will have, you know, so we have like a handgun cup. It'd be like, do we have handguns? Do we have no handguns? Do we have one handgun? Do we have first aid sprays? Do we have just herbs? Do we have no healing items, etc.? This be for like health, weapons, costumes, and everything. And you go through and you pick out what you're doing for each weapon category and everything. And I was like, if you guys are enjoying Resident Evil 0, feel free to super chat or send a donation. And at the end of that live stream, I think we'd raised like £600 or something.
Wow.
And I was like, what? How have I raised this much money from just me sitting here playing Resident Evil 0? Like, that's the most amount of money I've ever made. It was crazy.
Right.
And yeah, so then I kind of saw that there was an opportunity there. And it was not that I needed an incentive, because I really enjoyed what I was doing. And, you know, as I said, it was like a nice project to really sink my teeth into during lockdown. But, you know, when you're kind of making that kind of money for a good cause, it was like such an incentive. And yeah, really lit a fire under us all to do a lot more live streaming. And so we ended up raising £10,000 for them. And then we've been basically, when there was and I'm going to try not to get too political about all this, but when there was the whole George Floyd incident in 2020 as well, I also felt like I wanted to do something about it. And so I wanted to, and also just like hate crimes that go on online and with gaming and stuff.
Yeah.
See it all the time. People just being horrible to each other, saying nasty things, and the effects that it can have on mental health, breaking people down. It's just like so unnecessary. And a big part of it just comes from education and awareness. People just need to be aware of the effects and how the things you say and you do to people can really affect them. And so, yeah, we saw this charity called Stop Hate UK, and they go into different schools and try and educate children about the effects of hate crimes and online what's going on. And they also just try and help victims, so people, you know, that have suffered from hate crimes, to try and help them. And so, yeah, we use them as our next charity, and so they're the one which we're fundraising for at the moment. And yeah, coming close to another 10,000 raised, which is cool. So, yeah, just again, the community never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, you know, exactly, man. That's what I'm saying. It's a cool time to, you know, appreciate, like, you know, each other and what we do have, and the community, like, really focus on the positive, because like you said, like, you know, we're supposed to be in this for the fun of it, not to, you know, be mean to each other or be toxic, you know what I mean, online, because just because it's online doesn't mean that it doesn't affect people, you know what I mean. And it's just like people that like love gaming and just want to like chat and talk about stuff, especially something like so so like love like Resident Evil, where it's like 25 years old, going on 26 years, and it's like it's still growing, right? So it's like the community. It's almost like it happens in a vacuum because it's like a niche like game, but it's like it's a big franchise, right? So I always think that like people kind of underestimate like how, you know, the fans are, like how dedicated they are, and even if they don't like, you know, new game this, new game that, or they like one trilogy over the other, right? There's always those conversations. You can have debates and civil discussion about it because everyone feels different about each game. But that's what makes it unique, right? It's like if we all thought the same and felt the same, then it'd be boring. It's cool to hear different sides of stuff, being like, oh well, I hate RE4. Oh well, I love RE4. Like, yeah, like I don't hate it, but I'm saying like someone would say to me like, well, I fucking hate RE4. I don't know why you like it. And I'm like, well, I think it's one of the best games ever made, but I don't think it's the best Resident Evil game, you know. But some people would say it is, right? So that's just an example, but it's just, I like the fact that we have fans, both of us, that like it's a cool discussion, and it keeps going because it passes so many generations of fans. I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's like people are going to stumble upon our videos and be like, holy shit, you know. Some people would comment, and I'm sure you've gotten multiple over the years, being like, oh, I got into Resident Evil because of you, or because of the content, right? And that's really cool because it really unlocks, you know, something different that they, you know, survival horror is very unique, and especially the old school way of playing Resident Evil. So you hope that they find it however which way, whether their gateway is RE4, because that's the biggest one. That's the biggest like gateway, I think. Everyone talks about RE4. It's on VR now, so like more people are talking about it, and the remake's coming out. So I think that will always be the top one. For you, what was your gateway into Resident Evil? What was the one thing that kind of that sparked it off for you? Was it just like a friend coming over bringing the game, or did you just like see it in a magazine? Like, what was your like first experience with Resident Evil?
So PS1, in my opinion, is the greatest console of all time, at least for me.
I agree.
So many great memories, yeah, like so many great games. I love that console, and I was just really lucky that my mum just didn't really care what I was playing. So I was just like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I was just playing like Grand Theft Auto and Exhumed and Doom and just loads of like gory, violent games, and my mum just didn't really care, which sounds awful, but again, I'm grateful for that lack of parenting in that aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, my friend of mine called Jordan, also known as Guardian J in our community, he used to live like a couple of houses down from me, and yeah, he got Resident Evil 1 in 1996 when it came out, and I went round his house to go and play it, and we would have to play it together because it was so terrifying as well. 1996, yeah, I'd have been six years old. So as a 6-year-old, playing Resident Evil back then for the first time was terrifying. Like the first zombie that you see, you know, the cutscene with the zombie that's just like eating away at the corpse.
Yeah.
Like that gave me nightmares. The way that he just turns his head around and the blood around his mouth. Oh man, it literally sends like chills down my spine thinking about it now. And so yeah, we would like get together and we would have to like play it in company because it was way too terrifying to play it by yourself back then. And we didn't actually finish Resident Evil 1 because it was so terrifying. Like it was just a little bit too intense to play to the end. We got quite far through it, but we never actually finished it. And then a year or so later, when Resident Evil 2 came out, my mum got it for me as my 8th birthday present. Man, my mum got me some great birthday
That's
presents.
amazing.
Resident Evil, video cameras. Yeah, it's all been great.
That's
stuff.
awesome. Yeah, that's my parents were the same way. Where like it was just my dad's game, so my dad would just buy it, and then I would just end up playing it, and he never really cared. Same thing with horror movies, like going to the video store. I remember my mom let me buy Scream 1 at Walmart. I remember this to this day, and it was like $8 or $9, and it was just on the rack by the register. And I was just like, "Can I buy that?" And she's just like, "Yeah." And then like the first scene is like, the boyfriend getting like, gutted with Drew Barrymore or whatever. And she's like, yeah, just go watch this upstairs. Don't watch this in the living room. Like, because I think there was like someone over or something. She's like, yeah, get this out of here. Like, but she didn't care, right? It was just like, I knew it wasn't real. So I wasn't like, I knew it was fake. I could distinguish between the two. And like, but it was a fun, like you mentioned the fear aspect of it when you're younger. And that's a big thing. Like, the fear aspect of like, not like, that's what makes you want to know what's behind the doors in Resident Evil 1, like what's behind us, but we don't want to see, but you kind of want to see, like you're curious. And that's what's interesting when you're young and you have that mindset. And you said going at 6 years old, and then 7 years old, you got RE2, like experiencing all that in those ages where like you're also becoming a gamer and you're playing all these different things. Like, I can see how that lies within your roots of just growing up, right? Just like for me, it was like stumbling upon Resident Evil because my dad had it, but then finally like 3 was the first one that like I was able to fully play through further because it was easier. So I kind of latched onto that a little bit, but also I would watch my dad play 3, even though I was a lot younger, but see Nemesis just like terrify him. And it was just like, that kind of changed it forever. I was like, man, these games, like, these are actually frightening people. Like, this is something that's like again, that and horror for me, like horror films, that's what kind of went hand in hand. Cause it was like, I always just liked that idea of being scared and like not knowing. And sometimes less is more. Like, you have films like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like, they show you some stuff, but it's not, it's still just like less is more, right? It's more effective than like everything nowadays that has to be brutal and gory and whatever. Like, that's cool. But like, there was something about like even the PS1 graphics where it was minimalistic, but it added like a creepy, weird factor to it. Also, because like, yeah, PS2 was coming out around like after, by the time the third game came out, and Code Veronica on Dreamcast was like, holy shit. Like, that I'll never forget. Playing Code Veronica, coming home with that and popping in the Dreamcast, I was like, number one, everyone called that game Resident Evil 4 back then, because you're thinking, holy shit, this is the next generation of Resident Evil. It's fucking fluid, and it's like, and like, I remember that vividly too, like that being really like, even though it was hard and I never beat it until years later because I gave up on that game. That game was challenging for me. Like, it still is. Like, I still suck at it. Like, I'm trying to get better. Like, you guys are killer at it, but I can't. Like, I have to still get up to that level because I avoided it for years because it was just fucking hard. Like, that's one of the harder Resident Evils.
Yeah. I mean, I'll come back to Code Veronica shortly.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely love that game. I love it. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you about all of that. But like, going back to like 1990, well, this would be 97, 98 sort of time, Resident Evil 2 came out. And then that was the first Resident Evil that I actually finished. And I think because it wasn't as scary as Resident Evil 1, I felt that it was a bit more. There's a very small injection of action that made you feel a bit more powered, and because especially when you're playing as like with Jill, it's like fine because you've got the bazooka, but she's so vulnerable. It only takes like 4 hits or so to die. So like, you feel very vulnerable and you're very aware of being hit. And then with like Chris, you don't really get the same kind of firepower, so then you feel kind of weak to the enemies. Whereas Resident Evil 2, you can take a lot more damage. You get way more stronger weapons in it. There's a lot more weapons in it as well. And just the way that you move, you feel like you're in more control. It's a bit more fluid. So I just wasn't as scared of Resident Evil 2. But it was the perfect balance in that I was still scared, but enough to make me want to see it through to the end. Where Resident Evil 1, I was just like, this is too much. Yeah, I'm tapping out here. Yeah. But Resident Evil 2 was great. And then same with 3, moving more in that action kind of direction. Loved 3. I think 3 may be my most played Resident Evil because of how action-based it is. Wow. Yeah, it's just so fun. You can just load it up. It's like an arcade game in a way. You just load it up, get a load of weapons. You can sesh through it in like 2-3 hours and it's done. It's just quick and easy to pick up. And just, I feel possibly the best controls that the series has.
Yeah, like, very smooth.
Within like the fixed camera.
That
super
quick
smooth.
turn,
and you run quick and everything. Yeah,
that was like
turn.
Essential because I think they really tried to like capture. I think they were trying to push that engine as much as they could at that time, because between that and Dino Crisis, because Dino Crisis had the kind of like the Code Veronica cinematic cameras where it would start moving with you, and I was like, oh, okay, they're starting to kind of get it down. And you could tell that, like, you know, everything was snappier with Nemesis on your ass, because you had to have that momentum to move Jill and then have the dodge button with that, which was like another layer, which I always thought made that unique. So that was kind of cool. They, you know, at least brought that back to a certain extent in Remake, the dodge, like making that stand out still from 2 Remake, where 3 stood out from 2 in certain ways. But I can see what you're saying, though, for 2 and 3 having that action level. I agree. And that's kind of what I think that's what maybe, like, in retrospect, maybe kind of drew me closer to navigating towards 3, because even though Nemesis was scary as hell, it was still just like easy mode. You had the assault rifle, the Magnum, like you had so much shit. So it was easier for me to get through like just the police station half where he busts through the window when you come back down from the S.T.A.R.S office. It's just like, you know, it's those little things that you grasp on as when you're growing up playing those games that you're like, okay, because you want to beat it, but also like back then, like, and someone mentioned this in the comments, I was talking about it on my RE4 memories video, where
I love that video, by the way.
Oh,
that
thank
was
you.
great.
No,
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, man. I just kind of wanted to share my experiences, and I know everyone else has different, you know, different experiences with RE4, but yeah, no, like that's what's cool about sharing it. Someone said in the comments, they were like, you know, back then, you know, when you were stuck, unless you had, you know, a guidebook, obviously, or you had, and my dad always had the guidebook, so that would help me out. But even then, if you screwed yourself in a situation where like the guidebook can't help you, because that's what happened with me with RE4, but even the previous Resident Evils, it's like I had the guidebook, so yeah, you could solve the puzzle. But if you like blew all your ammo on like, you know, 2 or 3 zombies, you're kind of screwed because you won't get that back or whatever. So it kind of taught me like to minimalize and be like, okay, like it kind of teaches you that, because it's not handing you, like RE3 kind of handed you it, but it was still hard. But I feel like certain difficulty levels nowadays are very easy, where back then it was like even easy was still kind of a challenge. It's very different nowadays, I feel like. But those older games had, again, that kind of difficulty wave. And, you know, adding, again, like, you know, different stuff to 3. And then Code Veronica was like, hey, we're going to make this harder. Like, we're gonna make this a longer game. It's going to be 2 discs long and 1 scenario, but it's going to be fucking... you know, a whopping, like 9 to 12 hours, depending on how I mean, you could beat it faster, but like a normal playthrough is, you know, that long for that game. That's pretty long for Resident Evil. It's not your 3 or 4 hour game like the trilogy, right?
Oh, it's so much longer. And a perfect example of the soft locking that you're talking about. I think that most people will agree with me on their first playthrough on Code Veronica. How many people got stuck on the Plane Tyrant or the Tyrant before that because you just didn't have the right ammo or enough health to actually get through those boss fights? And it's so easy to save just before those boss fights, or, you know, you don't have the strategy of having multiple saves at different points. You've only got your one save, and you can only load that one location, and you have to do the boss fight with what you have, or you have to restart the game again. I did it. So many people on our Discord did it. So many of my friends did it. So many people I've spoken to made the same mistake. And it was just brutal, because it's just, you don't get that with games anymore. Like, games now are so much more forgiving. And yes, of course, there's like Demon Souls and the Souls games and everything.
Right.
But like nothing that will take you back to the beginning of the game, where you actually have to start everything afresh. Like, that was just, a thing of its time. And I think that was also a big part of previous generations as well. For example, like the Sega Mega Drive, it's called in the UK, but known as the Sega Genesis in the States. So like all of the Sonic games, so many of them, I never actually finished, because you'd have your 3 lives. Obviously, you could get more or less. And if you lost all of those lives, you'd have to start the whole game again from the beginning. And then that was it. And that was just kind of the generational thing, is that you had to be good enough to make it to the end to see the finish. And it didn't cater for people that weren't hardcore enough. So, it's totally a generational thing. Maybe it was a little bit hard on us, though. Like, I think it probably pushed people away from things. I wonder how many Resident Evil or potential Resident Evil fans that could have been into the series but weren't, because they soft locked themselves out, or, you know, they just couldn't get past certain sections. We've had it before, you know, in challenges and live streams and stuff. You've had it infamously with like the community dice stuff you're doing recently, where it's just a segment you can't do because you just don't have the right supplies. And It just makes me wonder how many people have tapped out because
That's
of
a
that.
good question. Like, yeah, like what could have been? Like who out there just like stepped away because like whatever. I think it's funny because my dad, who is obviously the person who got me into gaming and Resident Evil, what threw him off the series was a little game called Resident Evil Survivor, because
Oh, yes.
he thought that was like that's where they were going, like first person, which is funny because years later. But he hated first person because for him, when he played Doom and stuff like that back in the day, he liked it, but it gave him like motion sickness. Like he didn't like the fast camera. Now he can play Call of Duty and stuff like that and all that stuff, and you know he's still gaming in his 60s. You know, God bless him. But it's funny that like it kind of shifted. Like he saw Survivor. Not only was it a shitty game, but it was like a very piss poor way to do a Resident Evil first person game. And it's not even like the worst Resident Evil game because it's playable, but that threw him off. And then for me, it's like I kind of stayed on because me and my brother had the Dreamcast. And then when Dreamcast kind of went away, it was like, oh, the PS2 era is here. And we're going to have, Dead Aim, which was, again, something I bought and then...
Don't talk to me about Dead Aim. That game doesn't exist. In my law, that does not exist.
It doesn't
exist. It's all being scrapped.
Well, that's the thing. Dead Aim is because people want me to play it with like the light gun and shit like that, and I'm like, listen, there's only so much torture that I played Gaiden, okay? Like there's only so much I can do, with that, and that isn't even terrible. I've come to appreciate that, but that game is fucking hard. Like Resident Evil Gaiden, however you pronounce it, right? It's just it's the only Resident Evil game that's rated T, by the way, that I know of. But it's that's why when we played it at the Legacy Series, I was like, man, I can't believe we're actually doing this. And it was challenging. Like that pissed me off because I thought it was over. Then it had like 2 fake out endings. And then like the ending doesn't even make sense because it's not canon because they shoot the wrong Leon and the Leon that's alive is bleeding green. So you're just like so
I've never finished it. I've not actually played it. Like
I mean, listen,
I've been meaning to do a stream of it. But
I was gonna say it would make a fun ass stream. I think your community would really have fun with it. But like I remember looking up the ending like years ago, and I was just like, no way. And then when I saw it again, I was like, no way. Like that you could tell that's why it just came out, and they were like, but it's expensive. Like I got my cartridge for $10 at GameStop back in like 2007, and now it's like $90 just for the cartridge, like not even complete. And I think the UK one is even more expensive. So there's a couple different variants floating out there, but obviously the emulation is the easiest way to play that game because a lot of the Resident Evils are just getting way more expensive, and it's just the way it is, like the originals. And like, holy shit, man! Like when we'll talk about the UK in a minute and the little meetup and stuff. But I want to hit up a game store so bad because the UK shipping prices for some of the Resident Evil copies that I want to get or that I've been scouting out is fucking ridiculous. Like I was looking at it, I'm like, are you serious? Like I just want like Resident Evil on GameCube. Well, I'm spending like over $100, you know what I mean? Just on so the certain PS1 copies aren't that expensive, but holy shit, man. Like I got to check out some game stores over there because like I cannot, some of the shipping prices are crazy, and Resident Evil's only gone up in price. Retro gaming has in the past couple of years, everything has, right? So it's weird, but Resident Evil has that fan base where it just like rabid fans. They always keep coming back. They want to get the different collector's editions or the physical copies of stuff. Even though we're in a digital era, I like even me like with all this shit behind me. Even with the current consoles, like I'm on digital. Like I'm not picking up physical stuff, but because the games aren't on the disc anymore. We know this. But if there's a collector's edition for Village, which I have over there, I got the Chris statue, like I'll get it. Like those would be my exceptions. Like franchises or series that I like, I'll get the collector's edition and stuff like that. But I usually try to collect stuff that's on the disc, movies that like, have special features and stuff that's, useful on the disc, like, Because in my opinion, I think special features and commentaries, like that's film school for a lot of people. You know, that's how you learn the kind of the insight of filmmakers, and you know it's extra layers of stuff that people like us appreciate. Where like if you just watch it on Netflix, you get the movie and it's done. But I like the fact that like there's more to collecting different types of media. And Resident Evil for myself, like that's why I kind of always stuck with doing collection updates and stuff throughout the years, because like I just like documenting when I got something, what price I got it for, obviously the different times. 10 years ago, like Dead Aim, you know, I could get for $12. Now it's not like that. You're going to be spending, you know, $60, $70, maybe even more now. I don't even know. But it was a different time. So I kind of always like documenting that. Like we talk about going through the years of like different eras of content creation in YouTube. That's what kind of always been like what I like to do, and kind of keep that memory of like, oh, I remember when I got this or got that. And to see it kind of build over the years. And again, it's harder when stuff gets more expensive. So I'm kind of dipping my toe into getting different regions, which I've gotten some Japanese stuff. And shout out to Eli. My buddy Eli, who was doing wrestling in Japan, he went into a game store and hooked me up with a great amount of stuff that I did a collection update
awesome.
on. It was like 2 years ago, I think, at this point, or 3 years ago. But that kind of stuff is cool, and I like kind of like I like the hunt, right? Like I like going out and physically doing that. I know that's kind of gone now because everything's eBay and stuff like that, and I get it. But I still like video game stores and like finding, always on the hunt for Resident Evil or survival horror stuff. But I like kind of collecting in that lane, because then I also like, I get, you know, more just regular shooters or whatever. But as far as like going back for the vintage stuff, man, like, you know, are you into going and getting any other like Resident Evil memorabilia or stuff, or do you just kind of like, you still have all your old school stuff, I'm assuming, right? All your old games, or have you lost a few? What's happened to NOUGIE'S Resident Evil collection over the years? Has it grown? Has it shrunk?
I wish I had done like a collection update at some point, because yeah, when Resident Evil Challenger like started the first couple of years, I was just so obsessed that I would just have to have every single copy of every Resident Evil. Had RE4 on like PS2 and GameCube and Wii, and then I get PS, like all the versions. I had everything. And yeah, I used to have like all of the figurines, and used to have the chainsaw controller and everything.
Oh
I used
my
to
God.
have so much stuff.
I don't even have the chainsaw controller. I need that. You got me beat on that.
Yeah, I wish I had kind of kept it. I end up selling a load of stuff when we were doing our charity fundraiser. So I sold the chainsaw controller and a load of other stuff, and then I used the money to go into the fundraising.
There you go.
So, you know, it's not all bad. And the thing is, I love it. I love the stuff, and I've still got all the figurines at my parents' house and everything. But the problem is, I was just finding that it was just sitting in their attic. Like, I just wasn't using it.
Right.
I just wasn't really like putting it anywhere or doing anything. Or I'd try putting it in my office and things, but then when I'd have to do filming stuff or streaming, I'd have to move things out, and yeah, it just ended up.
It comes down to space, really, because that's what it comes down to. Because like when we got stuff like movies, like vinyl, like games, like stuff that we're into, in any which way, yeah, it you know, you got to have space for it, and you have to be selective, and you know, and I understand, because like that's why I just have like, you know, I have the shelf for Resident Evil, and then as it gets bigger, you know, maybe in the future I'll have, you know, a different kind of like setup for it. Right now it's fine, but for me, I was like, I don't know why I just like would never get rid of stuff growing up, and then I was just like, I kind of gravitated towards it because it was always like, you know, just I don't know, I always just kind of, it's just the memories, I think it comes down to, and then getting stuff that I never had, or getting rare stuff, you know, was just always kind of cool, because I always saw it online growing up, and I was like, oh well, it's not that bad, and then you see it go up in price, you're like, holy shit, I'm happy I got some of these copies when I did, because you know, it's like you couldn't even afford them now, like, because it's like double triple the price. It gets insane. So do you have like your like OG GameCube and those copies, or did you you still have them?
Don't worry, man. The original GameCube's still there. So my GameCube is my longest lasting console ever that I've ever had. So from the challenges from 2005 to 2015, all of those challenges have been using my GameCube.
That's amazing.
And all those challenges were like 24-hour ones, so it was on running for a long time. And it still works now. I recently went back to my parents and played it, and all still works. I've still got all of my old GameCube series. Like, again, I saw how much the value of it was on eBay, and I was like, ooh, can make a pretty penny here.
Oh man, the GameCube were low prints, man. They're low prints. They didn't do a lot in the States or the UK. Very low prints. Of 2 and 3 mostly, and Code Veronica. Those are like the big ones.
I just those games they're just too important to me that I just can't. I don't care how much they're worth.
Right.
They are the foundations of our community and everything. If it hadn't been for those 6 games, like, we wouldn't be where we are now. So yeah, I can't sell those. I can't sell my GameCube. People who are fans of our content will know about Nathan's GameCube and the journeys that we had with that. So like Nathan's GameCube, in the middle of one of the challenges. So right, one of the this it just shows you what dumb teenagers we were. Like, so 2007, we went to do our last challenge. No, was it 2007, 2008? Forget the year. Anyways, we went to do the biggest challenge that we'd ever done, and we were both planning to beat 7 games each within 24 hours, and so that's 14 games. So it's the biggest challenge we ever did. So that's the 6 GameCube ones plus Deadly Silence, because that had just come out, so we're going to play that as well. And so we're like, wow, biggest challenge that we're ever going to do, but we're like 17. Nathan was working at a supermarket. He's like, I can't get the time off, so I'll just work, 9 to 5. I'll do a whole day's work. And then after that, we'll start our 24-hour live stream. And I was like, yeah, sure, if you're cool with that. So we didn't start our 24-hour live stream until 7 p.m. So we've been awake for like a whole day.
Holy
and
shit.
Then we're about to start this. So we started doing this challenge where we were both knackered. Well, I wasn't actually that knackered. Nathan was absolutely knackered. He was really tired. About to do this. We had some issues with the live stream. Those things weren't working. We got it to work. We started going through the games. And then, I think like a couple of hours in, his GameCube started getting disk read errors. And he'd have to quit the game and start again. And we're like, we don't have time to lose all of these save times that you've got. You've got 7 games to beat. Like more than any time, more than any challenge, time is so important on this one. And his GameCube kept on doing that like throughout the challenge. And fortunately, he just bought a Wii, because this was around the time when the Wii had come out. And so he was able to transition over to play with that.
Is that when you guys had to go into the living room and just like hook it up because you're like, fuck it, we just gotta plug, and I always thought that was funny because you just see the TV in the living room, like you guys were just like, we gotta get this done. Like, I always love that.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually a different challenge.
Oh, okay,
So that was a different challenge. So that was when I was doing one. Basically, my mum had given birth to twins. So when I was 15, I had 2 twin brothers that were born. And so we were doing a challenge at my house, and they were babies. And when it got to sort of like kind of late in the evening, my parents were like, yes, probably not a good idea for you to be upstairs gaming the whole time.
Right.
So if you don't mind moving the 2 game consoles and the TVs and all of your live streaming downstairs. And we're like, we're in the middle of a live stream and a 24-hour challenge, but okay.
Oh,
so and there was just always that chaos, because like, as a 16-year-old, you're not like forward planning. You just like do stuff spontaneously.
Right, you're not thinking ahead so far. You're like, all right, we just got to worry about this now. Like, Nathan got off work. We barely, or whatever the case. But this is like a couple different scenarios we're talking about. But that's kind of funny that like sometimes it gets like to the point where the console fails and. Or like you're up against the clock, and that's what makes the challenges always so entertaining is just seeing, what stuff could happen. Because I mean, when unfortunate stuff like that happens, we can all relate, because us being, again, content creators, stuff always goes wrong when you're trying to get it right. Now with, the Wii being a GameCube, that was just his backup, right? Like he just ended up using the Wii as like the safe zone. Was that like, because that is a glorified GameCube, that's all the Wii was. I'm taking shots at Nintendo, but that's all it was. It was a tech demo console, and it played GameCube games, so it was the better of the two, because you had something that was like, a newer laser. It wasn't like, you know, because some lasers do burn out. Mine is still going from 2001. So like I'm the same with yours. Like mine is still going. So lucky, you know, I guess, because you know, it can happen anytime, like these consoles. But the old consoles, is funny how even though they're older consoles, they last longer. They've lasted so much longer than some of the newer stuff, where like you deal with all these like issues and stuff like that. Like they still they made them really well back then. You know, nowadays they are made well, but so much issues can happen now, overheat and this and that, and like, you know, it gets a little bit more technical. But you know, again, you sometimes, that's why people like, and I'm sure you guys like the emulation side of it now, right? Where like you could just do stuff on an emulator and you don't got to bust out the old GameCube. Is that easier for you guys to do that now? To just like get it up running on like whatever, or like what's the process now?
It took me a long time to adapt to emulating and mods and everything. I was kind of saying it to you like off stream before we went live, but like, so I used to be a Windows user, but just like getting into like filmmaking and video editing and everything, and just the place where I was working, everything was just using Apple hardware and computers. So I was very much in the Apple infrastructure for a really, really long time. And I just didn't have a Windows computer or anything. So the option just wasn't there for doing emulators and mods and things. But then when, you know, we had our rebirth and everything, and yeah, loads of people were like saying, oh, you should play this mod, you should try this, you should try this. And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to get myself a gaming PC, I'm going to get that and play the mods. And also another reason why I hadn't got it was I was just so paranoid that technical things through the emulators were going to go wrong. And, you know, through a 24-hour challenge, there'd be like, I don't know, blue screen of death, or something would go wrong with the emulator, it would crash and you'd lose your progress. And fortunately, that hasn't been the case many times. There have been like maybe 2 or 3 live streams I've done. I was playing like Silent Hill 1 pretty much this time last year. And yeah, there was just an issue where it just couldn't play through one scene. The emulator would just crash every time.
Wow. And
it was this well-known problem, and you had to change some of the video plugins and things like that to get it to work. But by and large, emulators have been really smooth to play, and I love that they're really quick. And with the like HD mods and everything, they look great. They upscale lovely. They look awesome. There's so much variation, and also it's just really nice having everything in one platform.
Yes.
Because the main issue I have with like 24-hour challenges is that amongst all of that other complicated technical stuff I was telling you earlier, the HDMIs and all that other bullshit, there's also, you know, going from Resident Evil 2 remake to Code Veronica, and then it's like, okay, so I need to go from my PS5 to my PS3, so I need to detach my PS5, and when you do,
and the PS3 needs a splitter because it has the
HDCP
HDCP,
to bypass it. So then you need to change what your HDMI's, and oh my god, so much headache. Whereas if you've just got like a PC and you literally just close that program, open up the next one, takes 10 seconds, happy days.
Yeah.
Great. But I'm still not quite there yet with getting everything on it. Like, I still haven't found a great version of Code Veronica on PC that I like. Like, I know there is a PS3 emulated version.
Right.
And I don't know whether I need to tinker with my settings or what, but
hey,
I've
man,
tried it quite a few
if
times.
you get, that's the thing. So for Code Veronica, you can actually, so the problem with the PS4 one is that it's Code Veronica X and it looks like shit, because that PS2, it's just garbage. But
trash.
It's trash. But the Xbox version, man, if you had, and I'm not gonna be like, I'm gonna sell you an Xbox, but if you were to get an Xbox that's like $299, it's the digital guy, you can play that HD version of Code Veronica on a console, but also most of the other Resident Evil games, because most of them are on there digitally, besides obviously the originals. Remakes on there, Zero's on there, 2, 3, and you get Code Veronica. But like, that's the only thing. Actually, obviously the PS3, you can get that, but I think it's the same HD version. It's that 720p, because that was HD. That was 2011 they came out with that. So whether you get the Xbox or the PS3, but the Xbox, you wouldn't have to do a splitter. It's easier, so you don't have to go back. Because that's the problem with Code Veronica on PC. Again, just like the trilogy, there is no Steam support. There's no, besides Remake, we're kind of talking about the original trilogy, right? That's what I mean when I say trilogy. Some people will be like, well, there's 0 and 1, and that's like OG trilogy. You got to say that now because there's so many damn remakes. But yeah, it's like Code Veronica, that you bring up a good point. Like, always been hard to get on PC. I'm always playing that on a console. And to that point, you brought up Code Veronica. Do you remember, I don't know if you saw that stream where me and John were trying to play it for one of the deep dives that we never ended up, doing because, everything happened. But like the corruption of the memory happened before my eyes on Dreamcast. We literally clicked the button and it like froze, and then like we tried to reload, they were gone. The saves were gone. I've never had a VMU give us the middle finger, and I've never had a problem with GameCube memory cards, PlayStation memory cards. Yeah, this happened like live on stream, and I was like, "Are you serious?" Now we got through because John was really good at Code Veronica, so like we got back there pretty fast. But we were just like, why? Like, you know what I mean? It was pretty much time waste. I mean, we streamed longer, but we were just like, it was just time wasted because the other part that we live streamed was that part that we lost. So we're just like, it was in different sessions, but it was still like, again, even with the old hardware, you can't even trust it sometimes. Like even when I did the last attempt at the dice challenge, which I was successful at, by the way. We'll talk about your dice lock challenge coming up. Thank you. We'll talk about your dice lock coming up in a bit, but I tried to say, like, the memory card wasn't detecting. And, like, I kept putting in different memory cards of the PS1, and it wasn't detecting. And I was like, why? Like, why isn't it working? And, and so, but like, it finally worked. Nothing happened, thank God. But I had to, like, I was taking out the memory card, making sure I wasn't hitting the power or anything. I was like, all right, I was blowing into the memory card, took out another memory card, tried to put that in. There wasn't enough room on that one, so I couldn't check that one. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like with the emulator, you just click a button and it save states, and like it saves. Like it usually doesn't get corrupt unless like you remove the file or you uninstall the emulator or whatever. So like some of these, like, again, the newer way to do it is having everything in one spot and it just works. Like I always like playing with the older machine. If I have it, I'll hook it up. But when you're doing a challenge like that, I agree. Like I would probably do the same thing because you're on time to get it done. Like once you click that punch in, like you can obviously pause it for breaks and stuff, but like you have to keep it going. So I get what you're saying when it's like it's so much easier to have everything in one spot now doing these challenges and just like bam, it's there. You got everything there. But if you do, again, whether you're on PS5 or Xbox, like you can only play so much of the modern games to when like it comes down to. That's why people were like, what the fuck, Capcom 25th anniversary and you didn't put out the trilogy? Like people just wanted to play it on, current. Now, again, there's rumors with PlayStation and their service. They're going to bring back PS1 games. That would be nice if the PS1 games I paid for on PS3 actually amounted to what I have today. Because that's the good thing about Xbox is that ecosystem. I bought Code Veronica in 2011. I can still play that on my 2021 console. That's something that is nice. It's nice to have when like content creators like ourselves are trying to do like, challenges or shit that like not a lot of people would do, but like having that ease of access helps us a lot because we don't got to unhook a bunch of shit and do all that stuff. Again, most people don't got to worry about this if you're not doing content. So some people are like, Jesus, but it's like, again, it happens. They kind of want to know how the sauce is made and like how sometimes how what you have to do to put on a production and put on like a longer stream. And you guys got it down to, you got it down pat now. Because you've been doing it for so long. So that's why, like, now that you guys are doing, or that you're doing the Dice Lock challenge, let's talk about this. You are doing Dice Lock on Remake. So let's talk about this a little bit. That's the up and coming thing. This will come out on the weekend. So people will see it before. You said Monday or Tuesday? What did you say? Monday?
So Monday next week. Monday
Monday is going to be 31st. Yeah, last day of January.
So we're starting at 6 p.m. UK time. So I think that's like 1 p.m. East Coast and probably early morning on the West Coast. But yeah, it was hugely inspired by you guys. I think it's like one of the best gaming ideas I've ever seen. Like as soon as I saw your first video and you explained the rules, I was just like so interested. I was like, this is such a unique concept, like anything I've seen before, and it's got so much potential to be used across the entire series and can be refined and adapted for each game. There's so many different things that the games have that you can switch in and switch out. For example, so like as I said, I'm doing Resident Evil 1 remake, And one thing that I'm thinking, I still haven't 100% decided on exactly what the DICE stipulation is going to be, but I was thinking of even putting like the defense weapons as one of the stipulations that you can switch on or off.
Defense weapon, yeah, because that's something you gain in remake. So that's the best part, the fun part, right? Is trying to like form the puzzle piece around the game, because you want to make those roles about kind of what that game is. So you have to kind of. I'm curious to how you're going to approach remake for sure with all the stipulations on there.
Yeah. So yeah, I was hugely inspired by you guys. Like, massive credit to both of you for coming up with the idea. Like, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's been fun so far, man. It's been a ride, you know, of like sometimes you fail and you get frustrated, you just got to walk away and come back to it, you know. Like John was a lot more successful because he clutched Jill. Like he clutched her like with that run because he got screwed with like the roll, and he was able to pull a win. Which again, that's just what John does. He pulls the win. You know, when you don't think. That's why I never doubted John when he was on the channel playing games, because I knew that he could always like he always would get it down. He would just play it a couple times and try to get it down, and I could see the wheels spinning. Like he would get it. So, but when I was with Chris on my own, I was like, well, fuck, like. I just kept getting bad luck of the draw. But again, that's sometimes how it is. Like sometimes those attempts, that's why you call them attempts, because I don't know for sure if that run I'm gonna really like if I get that one save or get that one, you know, or one mess up here, it could just be, or the wrong bad roll here, right? It's a good problem to have because you got people donating and they're interacting, but it's like you're up against the chance of the roll. And yeah, no, definitely, I'm super stoked to see, like, you know, you adapt that stuff and make it your own with remake being your, you know, what a game to start, because that game is challenging in and of itself. Even if you played it a bunch of times with the rolls up against you, it could be challenging. So
yeah, man, yeah, really excited. And also, yeah, a massive congratulations to you as well. Like, I was there with you, I've been watching all of your attempts, and oh man, on that third attempt, when you got to the lab with the tyrant and he screwed you over, man, I literally, my heart like sank. I really felt for you, because it was just like the first time I'd ever heard you in a live stream. You just went so quiet, and I could just feel your pain. I've been there. I know what it's like. It sucks.
Yeah.
And so when you
got
that big
salty, you know, like when I get pissed, I'm just like, ugh. I can't scream or yell. I just gotta, like the one time, like during the Legacy series where I almost made it, but the damn infection meter with Jim, and I died, and I just like had to get up and just was like, fuck, like I had to like walk off camera. You could just hear me in the background. It's in the highlights or whatever. But I just remember, like, there's some moments where you're just like, and I wasn't gonna get that outbreak scene anyway. And same thing with that Chris thing. Like I knew, and going into that last section, I was like, this is not looking good, but you try. And so, and I appreciate you watching it and enjoying it. And I'm happy most people enjoyed it, you know, like I think it'll be fun to do Resident Evil 2 and kind of work on that and do like, take it one scenario at a time, but like work on like the different dynamics to that game. And I'm just happy to move on from RE1, cause like, it's fun. It was fun, but like, holy shit, I'm just ready to check out another game. You know what I mean? And, make it fun, you know, and it'll be more challenging. There's more stuff thrown at you in 2. But I also think it might be easier as well, because I don't know. I think there might be some cool shit we can do with RE2. So like, it's fun, you know. Like you said, it makes people kind of really invested, and it's cool that people donate and support, you know, in any which way on both of our platforms. It's awesome, and it brings the community together, and it makes it different, because they've seen us play these games a lot in different ways, right? But this, it's like they're in control, literally. Like we're rolling no matter what. Doesn't matter what it is. So that's what's it's kind of on demand rolling or on demand changing. So very very cool to see that. You know, and again, I can't wait to see like how this stream turns out, and you know, I'm sure you'll get a lot of people that are ready to donate and do some damage. You know, I know Gowdy's had his fun time with coming in and doing the donation and being like, all right.
Oh, I am not looking forward to that. I think he's going to be getting some sweet revenge on me during that. But yeah, I'm really excited for it. It's going to be really interesting, because it's the first time that it'll be me versus the community. So like, a thing that I love about the gaming challenges and the really hard stipulations is just everyone rallying around you. You know, you're trying to beat this boss knife only, or you're trying to do final enemy or whatever, you're doing it time after time, and people like contribute with tips. Oh, have you tried doing this? Oh, I only use the first aid spray at this point, etc. And I love that camaraderie. Everyone, coming together for a shared goal. And this is the first time ever that I would have done a live stream where it'll be people that are trying to stop me from getting that goal. They're trying to screw me over, because I've also added an extra incentive to make this really fun. And I've said to everyone that if they can break me, if they can beat me, if I quit, if I can't do it, that I will do another Community Dice live stream, and I have to do it wearing a pink dress. So that's given them even more of an incentive.
I like that.
To screw me over. Yeah.
Right.
So I think each one we do, I'm going to give like some sort of incentive to beat me, and I'm going to be competitive as well. I'm not just going to quit. I'm not going to make this an easy win. I've been practicing. I've been getting ready for this.
There you
go. So this should be good.
Yeah.
But I think with each game, you do really need to consider what comes through on the dice rolls, because even looking at the difference between one and one remake, like I've had to change quite a few bits. So firstly, I've had to change the saving thing, because I mean, you were saying it with your forced deaths and everything, that it's just too much to have to keep restarting the game right from the beginning. I totally agree with you, and you're more patient than I am. I don't think I could do that. So I'm keeping the forced deaths.
Okay.
But I'm not doing it with just like one save, or I know that you've changed it recently by having additional ink ribbons.
Right. That helped tremendously for sure.
Yeah, that definitely helps. I think one save for the whole game would just be too much. So what I have is, at least for one remake, we'll be doing it where you can save anytime you want, but it's going to be another one of the dice rolls. So if you roll no saving, I can't save until it rolls back the other way. So it could even go the other way. It could be that I just can't save at all. If I miss my opportunity, then that's it.
Right.
But at least I have a chance. It always depends on what's being rolled. And the other thing I changed was just the no item box, because I was just thinking that there is a possibility that I could have knife only, no healing, no item box, and just the combination of those will create a lot of soft locks. Yes, I know it's about the community wanting to beat me, but it just felt a little bit too one-sided,
right?
And that it was very easy for me to just get stuck.
And that's what happened with like RE1. I was like, well, guys, I put a key item in the box. I got to go in here anyway, but I would only take the key item out. But like, I agree. Like, I think when I do the Resident Evil 2, I have to reassess that one too. But that's fine, because like, it's just kind of working it out, right? It's the first 6 to 8 months of doing it or trying it out. So I think that's like the trial period of like, all right, how can we work this out and take certain things out that work with each game.
Yeah, exactly. And then if I win, if I beat everyone, then I know that I've gone too far by making it too easy. And then next time I'll add in more item boxes and more other things. Yeah. But it's just getting a sense of just where the balance is really. But yeah, really, really excited for it. So that's Monday next week. 6 p.m. UK time. And yeah, all of the donations are going to the Stop Hate charity that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's awesome. And of course, obviously, I'm going to put all the links down below and stuff like that, or if people are listening to this on all the digital platforms, they can check it out as well. That the one thing I like about the approach to the community that you guys always have, like you guys always seem to again, try to keep the community together and do certain things. And I know like the past couple of years for like a meetup and stuff like that were harder to do, but now you are doing a fan meetup in the UK, and I've kind of dropped hints and teases, but yes, I will be attending this. That's the plan. So I'm super stoked that everyone's stoked, because we do have UK crossover. Obviously we have crossover fans, but also just like a lot of people were really stoked when I kind of dropped that in one of the random like hangout streams I did. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the UK. And people were like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm trying to make it happen. So we're going to, try to do this in June, right? That's the plan right now, but you guys are finally doing it. And I think it's the right time, and it'll be really fun for me, because I've never been to the UK. So, I've only ever been to out of the country as far as like, Cancun, and that was like 10 years ago, it was a long time ago. and that's just very, touristy, whatever. Everywhere's touristy, but it's very just like you drink and then you stay at the resort, right? But with like UK, it's like I feel like you'll be able to see a lot more, and then like I'll be able to meet all of you guys, and it'll kind of be surreal because it's one of those things where like it's kind of nuts that like I've met a lot of people through just doing this through the years, and people that I've met up with become friends. We see each other on a yearly basis, stuff like that. Shout out to Perry and Frank and everyone, and there's a lot of people that we just met through YouTube, and I just think it's cool that you guys are keeping the community together through the years, but also now just doing like a meetup where we can just shoot the shit, hang out, play some games, and just enjoy it. You know what I mean? And when I saw you guys were doing it, I was super stoked, and that's why I was like, all right, let me try to make some moves here, and I got to get my passport and all that stuff. So that stuff's getting worked out right now. As you guys know, over here in the States, that takes a little bit of time, but it's the perfect time to do this now in January, while there's still time. And I'm happy that you guys are planning it so well, and it's in advance, and there's enough time. But I'm really looking forward to it. And a lot of people, this is their first time hearing that I'm announcing that I'm going. So there it is. I wanted to do it obviously with the man himself here. So
we've got witnesses.
Yes.
There you go, witnesses that he is coming. There you go.
And obviously,
man, we're
it's gonna be fun, and I'm super stoked to just see everyone and just hang out, and just to be able to, again, it'll just be cool to see, just because I've never done like a full on like meet up with like this amount of people. Besides, like I think I've done Double Toasted, I've done that YouTube channel. They did a meetup, and there was like probably around they had a whole like venue booked out for like a whole show. So that was like the only time I ever, and that was in Brooklyn. So that was like, it wasn't too far. That was only about like from me in South Jersey, that's only like 3 hours, 2.5 hours. So it's not even far. But yeah, that was the only like meetup that I've done for like a fan thing, and that was really well. And this, I'm sure, will just be amazing, and just to be able to go and just see some different stuff, and like again, just to see because again, like when you see fans and you see people that just like your stuff, and you see like, again, it just kind of hits you different when you see that in person. And we've met a couple people in person on different occasions, like small little meetups here and there for LTRE, and like when you do that, and Perry hosted it at his shop, because my buddy Perry has his own video game store, so we were able to host a little something there. A couple people came by, but it was still really cool. Like nothing big, but it's just you kind of like see it in person, and I don't know if you probably get what I'm saying. It's just like, I don't know, when you see everything in person, it just kind of like all makes sense. You're like, okay, this is like, I do this for the friends, for the community. Like if I didn't enjoy this, like why would I keep doing it? You know what I mean? There's got to be something else in there, I guess. And I don't know, like if that makes sense. It's just like I always connect on that level. Like once you see people in person, you're like, holy shit, like this is a thing. Like this is all just from like a silly, PlayStation 1 game. This is kind of how it all, sparked. I always think in depth about that kind of shit. And it always kind of like, I always just think, oh man, it's kind of funny, that would have led to all of this years later, and then us meeting up in the UK. It's kind of fucking wild, if you ask me.
Yeah, man. It's like super exciting, and it'd be an absolute pleasure to have you down, and to any of your subscribers and people who may not even know who Resident Evil Challenger is, but they're fans of the series or gaming, and they just want to meet other fans. Like, it's an open invite. It's being hosted in London in the UK on Saturday, June the 11th. And yeah, basically we just kind of, when we're in all of the lockdowns and everything, we had so many, members that became great friends through the community and had met each other digitally and knew everyone by their username and everything. But, all of these relationships would go on, and people would meet every week and chat, but no one would ever meet each other. No one would actually know what they're like in person. And so when, we were just kind of living through these digital avatars during lockdown, it was like a nice light at the end of the tunnel to know that we had this thing to look forward to. We couldn't give a date for a long time because of, we just didn't know when the right time to host an event, or if it would be cancelled or postponed.
Things up in the air, yeah, exactly.
But now things in the UK really are easing up. Like December was bad, it was crazy. Even I got COVID. All my friends got COVID. My family got COVID. There's just a complete wave that just ran over the country.
Right. That's the thing. Like right around like the last couple months, you started to hear like, oh, like your friend of a friend, like it started to become closer around like the vicinity, like holy shit, so like it's hopefully finally gonna subside, and especially by the summer, hopefully we can you know get rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling out here, getting things ready to go. It's again, the time's right, and it's almost like same thing with like when Resident Evil Challenger came back and everything. It's just like it's like it all leads to this point where like now you can resurface with just like off of a bunch of brand new Resident Evil releases, and you're still growing the channel, and there's still a bunch of people that are figuring you guys out and discovering, and it's cool because again, you move the needle through a bunch of content that is, there's a lot out there now. There's so much more. So it's still cool that you can connect because it's really an authentic level. And that's what I like about you guys over there, is that you bring a level of authenticity and you're yourself, and honesty. And I think that's what people connect with on any community level. That's why people stay within a community, and they respect the people that are on the screen or talking about whatever game. It's just like, that's what it's about. And the community is the anchor, that's the anchor point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, totally. I'm so excited to meet the whole community in person, and it's going to be quite an international affair because we've obviously got like you coming over from the States, got a few other people coming from all over, basically. And yeah, we're just going to have this one event in London where we're still working out the plans and everything, but generally there'll be food, there'll be drinks. We're going to have a load of different consoles so people can come there. Even if you're not like super social and you socialize through gaming, you can just come down. You can play some Mario Kart, play some Crash Team Racing. Hopefully, you're going to have Resident Evil Mercenaries or something Resi based, where people can come in and set some high scores. And we can have a real Resident Evil Challenger styled competition going on. And then it'll just be an opportunity as well for people to like get out of their comfort zones a little bit, come and see like a different city, and meet a load of other fans. And we've got loads of people who are coming down to London for a couple of days and just checking out and doing something different. So if you guys are interested, like just get in touch, because we're trying to work out the numbers because we're sorting out a venue at the moment. So we basically need to, if you are interested, we need to know numbers as soon as possible, basically, because I think we're going to get to a point where we won't actually be able to have everyone there.
Right. Well, I'm happy you said that, so that lets people know on this. And if I don't know if there's a thing that you can have people fill out or whatever. If there's a I think I saw that on Discord, right?
Yeah, we got questionnaires and we're
perfect.
just getting people's like details and things.
Perfect. So I can obviously fill it out now that I know. Because like I didn't want to do that and be like, oh, I don't want to throw.
Oh, don't worry, man. You're on the list. You're in the VIP.
No, I'm really looking forward to like just again like having just again everything kind of crossing with the fans, and just like just seeing something. And that's the thing too. Like I'm really happy that there's people out there that again are still making just genuine content and still just like doing it from the heart and just doing it because they love to do it. And then same thing with any kind of like filmmaking or being a filmmaker. It's just like you got to do this stuff because you love it, and you got to it's a grind. So it's always cool that again stuff like this can come from constant years of like not knowing if maybe it is worth it, or thinking you can doubt yourself, right? We're our own worst critic, right? Because sometimes you're never finished, you just walk away. Like you can just keep like going over edits and stuff over and over again, and like you can obsess over it, but sometimes you just got to be like, all right, I could do this and this, but this has to we got to get the show on the road, or this looks the best, you got to settle, or like whatever. But I think it's cool to see that pay off over the years, and I feel the same way with like just trying to trying to make a mark. And like I said, like moving the needle back when like 2 years ago when RE3 Remake came out, like I said, that was like the window of like, okay, this is the time, like it's either now or never. Like we either push or like we're just gonna get like not we're not gonna be in that algorithm. And we were able to do that with just the constant like evolution of YouTube and how everything changes. And you have to learn about just all different like logistics and analytics. So you got to learn about all this stuff because it's like crazy how it's shifted. But I like that people like us, we've stood our ground and like have just kept at it, even if like the foundation beneath us has changed and shifted. It's always like just about genuine content, just about putting stuff out there, making people laugh and feel good. And that's what the community is about at the end of the day. And just like, forget about like some of the BS in our lives from time to time, or like the everyday stuff. And that's why people watch our content, for like an escape, and it's an escape for us too. You know, I that's why I want to be transparent with people, because like, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but that's how it is for me. It's just nice. It's a nice little bubble to kind of go into, you know, and enjoy.
Yeah, man. Totally. I totally agree with lockdown. That was what a lot of the messages we got from our users during lockdown was just like, thank you so much for like making this content, because like, you know, for a couple of hours or whatever, I forgot that we're in the middle of a pandemic, or I forgot that I've got this personal issue that I can't do anything about at the moment.
Right.
So that was like really rewarding. And I was also going through a lot of stuff myself, like various things were like going on in my life. And I like mention it to like some of the people in my team. I'll just be like, I basically had like loads of grandparents that died and some other things that were happening. And they'd be like, oh man, like, you sure you want to stream? You sure, you know, you want to do this? And I'd be like, this is the number one thing I want to do right now, because this is escapism. I forget about it. And I've got this source of positivity. I've got some socializing. I've got a fun thing to do. I know there's going to be some laughs. It's definitely going to be a lot of emotions there somehow. So yeah, for me, as you say, it's like a perfect escapism, whether I'm happy, sad, whatever. It's always pulls my spirits up.
Yeah, man, definitely. And you know, one thing that with like how, you know, as far as like what you want to plan on for up and coming for like another, you know, big 24-hour challenge, do you have like, is there, you know, I don't know if you have a date set for that?
So there's nothing confirmed yet, because this is our current incentive. So we've said that if we've had various like milestones through like fundraising.
Yeah.
And like our 10K fundraiser was to do a meetup event. So that's kind of given us our motivation to run all of that. When we hit 15,000, I said that I would do a solo challenge, which I did over at Christmas.
Right.
I tried to beat 7 games in 24 hours. That was amazing fun. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go and watch that back.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, it was fun. And man, all I'm going to say is watch RE4 and the ending, because it is crazy. But yeah, our next milestone is 20K. And we said that if we hit 20K, so one thing that we did last year for the first time is that we moved out from the 2 gaming concept of me and Nathan, and we made it 3 gamers. And it was quite an amazing moment, because Nathan's sister Izzy has been there since day one. She's always been in the background. She's like a bit younger than us. And so she's always been in the background, but like as more of like a toddler. She would never be there as like a gamer or anything.
Right.
She'd kind of be there messing around, doing things in the background, but never actually being active. But she's had an interest in the Resident Evil series, obviously from watching us play it for so many years.
Just being around it, right? That's how a lot of people. That's just how a lot of people are. That's the gateway, right? People just playing it around them. They're like, "What's that? What's that on the TV?" You know?
Yeah, like you were saying with you and your dad, basically a similar kind of thing. And so, yeah, last year she got involved in the challenge with us. So it was 3 gamers attempting 4 games each within 24 hours. So it was a 12-game challenge. And it was great. It was really fun. It was so much going on, you know, as if it wasn't enough, like going between the 2. We managed to make the live stream go between the 3. So it'd be like on mine for a bit, then on Nathan's, then on Izzy's, then on Nathan's, then on... It's just all over the place, and it was engaging. People loved it. It was really fun. And yeah, we've said that if we hit 20K, that we'll do another one of those this year.
Perfect.
But yeah, until we hit that, I mean, we're not far off. I think we're about £1,400 off now. But until we hit that, can't confirm anything. Right. Unfortunately.
Right. That's
fine. But I'm sure we will.
Yeah, especially with the dice roll. People are going to be like, all right, we got to beat Nougie here. We gotta come up with the curveball, because that's what it is, man. Like you said, it's the crowd versus the player, and it's like the crowd wins, right? That's what they say. Every time I would lose, I just see in the chat, they'd be like, we won. And it's like, you guys won. I just got to walk away from this and come back with a vengeance. And sometimes it takes a little bit, you know, but that's, I'm sure you'll definitely hit that goal. And that would be cool, you know, to see, you know, obviously you'll add Village, right, into the mix, right? Because did you do Village in the last one? Or that? No, right? Because I
haven't done Village in a 24-hour challenge yet, because just not confident enough with it yet.
Yeah.
I've only beaten it twice. I love it. I think it's really good. And actually, I really enjoyed yours and Beggy's podcast when you're breaking it down and comparing it with RE4.
Thanks, man.
It was really interesting, like hearing you analyze it all and everything. I totally agreed with what you said and with the character development and everything. And I also agree that RE4 is way superior. Such a divisive game. I love RE4. I think a big part of it is nostalgia, but
Huge,
as you said in your memories video, just about like how groundbreaking it was and how addictive it was, and I played it so many times.
Right.
But yeah, with Village, I love it, but I have only beaten it twice, so I just don't feel I'm quite skillful enough to do it in a challenge. But yeah, I did my second playthrough over Christmas, and it really reinvigorated how great a game it is. I just beat hardcore mode, loved it, thought it was really fun, and I think with a couple more playthroughs I might do it. But Izzy also loves Village, so Izzy might also play it. So
there you go.
I'm pretty certain that it will be featuring very soon.
That'll be cool. That'll be really cool to see, because that's a game that, you know, the way it's set up, so, kind of like 7, where you can't like the speed running aspect. Like if you know what you're doing, it's very like it could be very short, so like it won't even take that long, you know, to do. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing with those games, because we thought we were going to get a longer, kind of more involved story with Village, but then it ended up being a little bit shorter than I thought it was going to be. But you know, same thing with any Resident Evil game. If you get good enough at it, you can beat it fast enough, you can trim down the time. So I'm sure you guys will find your way around, you know, any obstacle, try to, you know, learn it which way. And the random, some stuff's random, some stuff isn't. So if you know where some of the scripted stuff is and knowing all that stuff, it's like, it's pretty, you know, it's a pretty easy one. For me, what's stumping me on Village, getting the platinum, is the fucking mercenaries mode in that game, because it's like hard for like no fucking reason, and it's not even like OG mercenaries like I would have preferred. Like I understand you're killing enemies to get time, which is the first time they've done that I think since 3 mercenaries, because you would kill enemies to get time, not pick up time. But then they would have, but it's like, I don't know, it's just very challenging. I gotta like get good basically, and I was streaming it for a while, and I was just like, all right, let me step away from Village. I was playing it so much, but I'm done everything on the story side of things. I just have to like get that damn platinum, because I'm like 95%. I'm like right there, and it's just like, oh man, this mercenaries is killer. I do like raid mode. I gotta play that more on stream. People like, you know, raid mode a lot, so I know Gowdy likes raid mode. You know.
Gowdy is the biggest raid mode fan I've ever met. He absolutely loves it. I think raid mode's great. I do really enjoy it. But yeah, Village Mercenaries, that is really fun. And I was also watching your guys' live streams of that. And, oh, man, you completely blew my brain, because I spent so long getting some S ranks. I was like, yes, I finally got an S rank. I'm finally getting through this. And I watched your live streams, and then you're like, yeah, you need to get like double and triple S ranks. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I had like no idea about that. And I was like, oh.
And then you got to fight like, yeah, you got to fight like Mother Miranda and some other shit on like the final stage, and it's like, why is there 3 different versions of the stage? Why can't there just be like, I also am really disappointed you can't pick anyone else. Like it's mercenaries.
Yeah, they missed out on that.
It's called mercenaries. It's plural, like more than one, I would hope. It's not the mercenary. They didn't change it. So it's like, what the hell? So hopefully RE4 Mercs will bring it full circle, and they'll just have your selection of your characters in RE4 Remake, and they'll be like, all right, let's just keep. Hopefully they don't change that. I would hope that they keep that, because mercenaries is awesome. Just like how I want them to keep like separate ways to a certain extent, but I know they might cut that, and like they might just like bake that in. Maybe you'll play a part as Ada. Like you'll take control of her during, instead of like it just being, I don't know, like I don't know how they're going to do it. Who knows what they could do? But the leaked concept art with Wesker is what got people talking, because they're like, what the hell? You know, it's official, so we know it's being worked on, but only time will tell. Some people think, you know, it's too soon to remake that. A lot of people want them to remake Code Veronica. And I can see that.
Yes, I am the number one advocate of this. Remake Code Veronica. Capcom, if you're watching right now, scrap the Resident Evil 4
all over to
remake.
Code Veronica.
We don't need it. Resident Evil 4 is great. It's good as it is. It's not going to benefit from a remake. Make Code Veronica.
Absolutely.
It is the Resident Evil that needs to be remade. It's aged terribly, but the core of it is gold. It's great. It's got a great story, great atmosphere, great enemies, great everything. But it's just dated. It just doesn't work well as it is. So remake that. I'm loving the fan remake that's coming along at the moment,
Right.
and I cannot wait to play it. I mean, obviously, it's got its flaws. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm like just really intrigued to see what's going to happen with it, because I'm really starting to lose confidence that Capcom are actually going to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for whatever reason, they've just decided not to, which is a damn shame, man. Because
It really
I think
is.
it needs a remake more than anything, in my opinion, really.
Yeah, I just feel like Code Veronica was always just kind of like, and even in the like the surveys that they would send out to content creators asking about the games and what they like and what they didn't like. When me and John got the survey back then, it was a couple years ago, and Code Veronica was just not on any of the questions.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
And it was like, why? I was like, why isn't Code Veronica on here? And no one seemed to be talking about like the fact that it was like just not being really. I mean, people were like, remake it. People talked about that, but they didn't really say like Capcom never said anything about it. And then now it's like, yeah, it just seems like it's getting ignored. And I've personally, have come to love Code Veronica more and more the past couple of years, and that has to do with the channel. I think that's definitely more just like playing it more and more and experiencing it and appreciating it. Still suck at it, still trying to get better. But that's the one thing I was going to say about the dice lock thing is at least now I know I can like really try to make a definitive dice lock list and then practice on that game with that on my own time. Or maybe I could stream the practice or do whatever just because it's more content. But just to practice it and try to get better, because there's still, my skill level is nowhere near where you guys, I mean, you guys are obviously way fucking better on so many levels, because you guys are, like, again, I'm not blowing smoke. You guys have been doing this for a while, and I got to give credit where credit's due. You guys can get it down to a time and a science, and that's kind of where I need to get at, because I need to just like, now that like I think the content has kind of opened that up for me to be like, hey, I can document this or record this or stream this in whatever way and track my progression, whether I suck at the first two streams and then get better. And that's kind of what the dice lock was. But for RE2, I'm good at it, but I gotta like get a lot better and more polished. So I gotta play more Resident Evil in my spare time, or maybe I'll stream it to Patreon or YouTube members or whatever, where they can jump in and watch me kind of just like cycle it in. So there's extra content in that lane too. I have some ideas that I'm trying to work out, but I mean, let me know in the comments. But there's a lot of stuff that again, practice wise, that you have to do. Is that something you guys still do? Do you guys still try to like keep some in rotation from time to time, or like, all right, I got a little free time here, let me pop in RE2 remake, or if there's something that you're not feeling, like Village, for example, but like, would there be other games like that you try to like keep in your rotation, or do you just kind of like only fire up some of them weeks before the challenge?
Depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing a 24-hour challenge, I'll be practicing a lot. So like quite often people will say to me like, oh, what have you been playing recently? Like, what's been your game of like 2021 or anything? And I'll be like, well, 75% of my gaming time last year was probably spent practicing Resident Evil 1 Remake, playing Code Veronica, playing 2 Original, etc. So a lot of my time is spent doing that, mostly for the 24-hour challenges, because they just need to be sharp at those games, and they're not really the ones where you can just fuck around for ages making loads of mistakes. But when it's like the general live streams where, there's not really a penalty for dying, or, you've kind of got infinite time to a certain extent, then those ones I like not being as brushed up on, because that's where the fun happens. There's 1,000,001 live streams out there where you can go and watch. You can watch people do perfect speed runs, perfect sections, no damage, etc.
Right.
But the reason people love watching our content is they love watching me fuck up, and they love watching me make mistakes and do dumb shit.
And the reactions.
Yeah, and the reactions to it all as well.
Right.
So, like, if you're too polished, you don't get that. And we've done it sometimes with challenges where, and live streams where we've practiced so much that then when we go and play it, it'll be flawless. Nathan's been doing that recently. He's been practicing loads and loads and loads, and all the challenges he's done recently have been so perfect, and that's great, and he's set like some of the fastest times, but there just haven't been the moments that we used to have where it would just be like, I've forgotten what to do in this section, where's that key? Because he'd have the notes and everything would be so sharp. So yeah, again, like with the dice lock, it's all about getting a balance of not being too hard but also having something to overcome. And it takes a while to kind of figure that all out.
Yeah, but I guess that's the fun of it, right? Just trying to make it all work and trying to just like, again, like you said, people like seeing our struggle, and that's what makes it fun with the dice lock is like, all right, then we're gonna try to screw over these guys this time. You know what I mean? So that'll be really fun to see. But yeah, man, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to this episode of the show.
Pleasure.
Like I said, we'll definitely do more, and I'll probably, to be honest with you, like even though I probably won't bring any equipment to the UK, I'll probably just vlog and do stuff on my phone, because I definitely want to do like just some kind of documentation, even if it's like shit, or maybe I'll get a GoPro before then or something. I want to get something to document the event and upload it as like content, because it will be really cool to kind of capture that moment. It'll be really fun.
Well, man, as a documentary filmmaker, you do not need to worry about cameras in the UK. I'm sure I can sort you out. So yeah, we'll definitely make some content. That'd be really fun.
Yeah,
and as I said,
might as well.
We've got this UK meetup June the 11th. Anyone that's interested, get in touch. Our channel is just youtube.com/Resident Evil Challenger.
And your social, you want to plug that? Your socials, you're on the Twitter, right?
I'm on Twitter. My Twitter's just Nougie. But to be honest, it's not really a Resident Evil Challenge one. It's more of a personal one. So I'll put out like tweets when I'm going to do a live stream. But a lot of it is just documentaries and things I've been making. So if you're interested in that, feel free to follow the Twitter. But it's not as Resident Evil based as our YouTube stuff. I also need to get around to making a Facebook. It's on my to-do list. I need to make a Resident Evil Challenge Facebook.
I
get on that.
The group is like, so I haven't used the Facebook group stuff or the Facebook stuff in a while, because a lot of it works and it reaches people, but you have to I feel like you have to pay to reach people a lot. So that's the only downside to the Facebook thing, which is why I've struggled to I just don't use it, but I should, because Instagram, I feel like there's more instant people that see it, or Twitter. So I'm still kind of working on Facebook as far as using it to get to people, as far, because I used it at first and then I stopped. But for you guys, that'd be great, because I'm sure because you already have people that always want to interact and get notified when you're, I kind of have to revamp our Facebook, because it's been just dormant for a little bit. So I kind of have to, that's a job for me too. So we both got to get on our Facebook game.
On your to-do list as well.
Yeah. Just you look at 2022 and you're like, man, there's a lot of shit on the to-do list, but then you're always trying to do little things here and there to kind of okay, what did I miss, or what could have I, done, handled a little bit better in 2021. So I try to use it as a new slate for content creation. But yeah, man, just thanks again for coming on. And obviously you guys have all the links down below, where to follow, where to find them. And thanks again, man, for coming on. And that'll be it for this time. So we'll catch everyone in the next one. A big shout out to everyone that supports us on Patreon. With starting at just $1 a month, you get access to exclusive polls to vote on channel content. And with $5 and up, you get exclusive Patreon podcasts, live streams, and much more. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll catch you in the next one.